Was Shining around earlier?
Yeah, Shining was around earlier. Shining Messenger, Heartburn was in me, and that was it. So we are on the air. Hello, guys. Hello, men. Hello, Mgtows. And when I do say men and Mgtows, them things go together like peanut butter and jelly. That's all that's in here is men. We were just talking about just cooking and stuff, and burning the food. See, I have to turn that off and get with this. And well, what was it? Messenger had a long video earlier, and it was 55 minutes of how women are going to manipulate you, uh, how women are going to trick you, sperm jack you, and all those things. There's a lot of things to worry about with this thing. There's debt prism, slavery, force, gynocentrism, manipulation, lies, government thugs, women's traps, sperm jacking. There's just a whole bunch of stuff, and I think we lose track of all that stuff sometimes and make tell why we do what we do. Um,
Yeah, I couldn't agree. I agree with that. Um,
yeah,
I mean, without if you take that part out of Mgtow, it's like, what are you really left with?
yeah, you're not. Well, yeah, you're. It's just a blue pill message of try to get along with everybody. Then we're not here to be easy about it. We're here to tell the truth, and uh, we hear this thing all the time, tone down our message. But no, that without that, without that shock value, MGTOW wouldn't exist. And these are things you weren't allowed to say years ago. The
Exactly. That's what's so
shame,
important about it.
yeah, the shame of it. The men would shame you. The men. Oh, I've been thinking about that a lot too lately. About the I call it uh, making slavery aid out of slavery. And when they say man up, they're just making slavery aid out of slavery. And man up, do the right thing, work hard, take care of that, lean into the woman. You got to be a better man. And it's just it's just covering up for the truth that it is slavery, and it's who can be the best slave then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't disagree with anything there.
Yeah.
There's, the whole when you say man up, okay, males giving advice to other males is it is a fine line, okay? Because there's it always walks the line between having the genuine interests of the target male in mind versus the interests of the advice giving male in mind. You understand?
Right.
So when males try and drop this, heavy-handed masculinity on other males, you gotta really ask the question: who is that advice intended to serve? Is it serving the target of
That's
the
right.
advice or the guy who's giving it? And a lot of the time, it's wrapped up in altruism, in help, but it's really feeding that the guy's giving it somehow.
Yeah, it's the community. They want you to, it's for the community. When we talk about women in the community and the men doing that, uh, I'm not getting nothing from that, and it's generally what they're getting. Someone's getting something from me being subservient to and working hard and doing all the
Right.
things they say I'm supposed to be doing. But that's generally for the community, and the shame. The government wants you to think that way. It's no wonder that this is the message that's been this man up message is so popular with Health and Human Service, and that is the message that they give up. I look a lot into fathers for families and stuff like that. They got the
Right.
uh, the men, and their message is often man up. Just be that tough guy, be that that atypical, and then they give these little stupid little like you can play with your kid out in the front yard in that 15 minutes you might have with your kid a week to see them, and stuff like that. They're telling you how to do it, and then you
Right.
go to these, they have, but all that money. for that is coming from somewhere. And if you ever track down the money, you know where it's coming from?
From
It's
uh,
Health and Human
yeah,
Services. The same
yeah,
people
yeah,
that are
absolutely.
collecting child support, the same people that are putting men in slavery. You know, there's a reason why they do that because they want to get their payment. They want to keep their job. Uh, and it's the
That's right.
community. It's for the community. And the more men they get into those programs, the more men they can direct back into the Health and Human Service uh, gynocentric thing, and they make money.
Right. And exactly. So who's profiting or who's benefit? What's the Greek phrase for it? Who benefits?
Yeah.
Um, it's like what Messenger's saying today with the with these encouraging coming to the Mgtow community and encourage using that platform to encourage males to do exactly what? To go walk into the fire, to go walk into the exact thing that they came here to avoid.
Avoid. Yeah.
Who benefits from that, right? Obviously, it's not the men who are going to go out and get fucked. It's the guys who are pumping the rhetoric.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
not constructive.
Right. It's not. I always say, uh, when you look at the guys that are pumping that out, the man up message and that, and just go back to the gynocentric, uh, often what I see is people that hold licensure to the state and work for Health and Human Services. It's a doctor, a psychiatrist, a social worker. We hear this message from Paul all the time, Paul Elam. But when you look and you step back and you look at Paul's life, what is Paul? Paul's a licensed social worker. Of course, he wants men to go back into the system so that system is recidivistic of itself. It funds itself. Health and Human Health and Human Services is a
Right.
system that manufactures poverty so it can exist.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's like, and why wouldn't they have these messages, these little man up messages? Just get yourself a bitch and everything's going to be okay. Get her pregnant and you'll be a happy male. No, you're not going to be a happy male. You're going to be a happy slave if you can make slavery aid out of slavery. Uh, but that's it. Your life is through as an independent free male. And that's the things we warn about, and it's so easy, like in messengers he can, a messenger can give you 10, 12 incidents in his lives that this has happened. uh,
Hmm.
all of us can do that. All of us look around our lives and go, yeah, shit, well, I was there too. That's why I'm a Mgtow. uh, but
The yeah, I you're great at describing the apparatchik, the government apparatchik wing of of female power. This Health and Human Services, the government, the whole institution. Um, and that's where I think that there is still plenty of ground in Mgtow for men to really fully internalize and appreciate, how gynocentric the world really is,
how
right?
God
So
knows that.
when you're
That's
preaching PUA, you're really failing to appreciate, what you're up against. That's, you know what I mean? And so, yeah.
Yeah, let's yeah, I'll tell a real quick story here about first time I went down to Veterans Affairs to sign up for see if I had any. You got to go down there and see if you have health care and stuff like that. So I'm sitting in Veterans Affairs, and the police officer for the day didn't show up. And this is in Health and Human Service. They put Veterans Affairs in Health and Human Services to cut costs now because they want to start running these guys through the system. And uh, and there's a reason for that because 70 to 80% of veterans coming out of the Army are going to have to go through Health and Human Services because their woman left them while they were away and fighting
Just
for our country in Afghanistan.
just
Uh,
putting our veterans right into the meat grinder, huh?
yeah, they put them straight right into the meat grinder. So they're looking for a military police, and I had some training and everything, and did what I did, and I said I can do that. So what I was doing was guarding a room that they didn't want. There was some violence that happened earlier. When a male walked in and just went off, And I didn't understand it after a while, but I sat down and I started listening to the course that they were giving. Some of you guys may have heard the story from me before I tell it in a video. Uh, the course that they were giving was prenatal care. Guess what prenatal care is, guys? She don't have a baby, but she's learning how to have a baby. And the closer I looked, this woman up there was teaching them how to go get a man, get pregnant, sperm jack them, come back to Health and Human Services, sign up for Health and Human Services, and Health and Human Service will take care of everything in their needs after that.
What the fuck?
They give those courses daily at well, not daily, they're probably weekly at Health and Human Services. And every Health and Human Service in our country, in America, they give courses to females. If the female so wants to take it, she will learn how to go get a man, hijack his sperm, come back, and then make him a fucking slave.
That's how bad it is, man.
That's how bad it is, and that's how deep the rabbit hole goes. Our government loves this thing because our government gets so much power out of Health and Human Services. It provides them with the necessary means to use the force necessary to take money from men. And when we say force, when Messenger says that they will come to your house with 3 police cars, M16s, in full battle array, knowing that you don't want to go to jail, that's the way they're going to come to your house.
Right.
To put you in handcuffs and walk you out in front of your neighbors like all because you resist debtor's prison. Something that's ingrained in our Constitution, and they say you can't do that. So you said, I'm not going to supply debtor's prison with. I'm not going to supply the system with money. That's slavery. So they say, okay, we're going to put you in jail for debt. They know they're going to get resistance from a lot of men. Then they're going to show up with full battle array, and that comes from Health and Human Services. There's a war going on, man, and it's a real war.
It's a real war.
It's a real war. You have as soon as you have a baby in this system, all that shame, all that pay your child support or you're a deadbeat dad, but they take that shit very seriously. And,
you just can't really. It's just really hard to appreciate how corrupt it is, that we're living in. It's not anecdotal. It's not hyperbolic. It's not sort of kinda, or, it's not this ethereal thing. We're living in a time of such abject, it's just so corrupt, that they would use, the force of the, that kind of government force to come to a house of a guy who's just trying to see his kid, like what Messenger described today or whatever. The fact that they do that, and that is standard. That's not like a one-off scenario. That's standard. The cops they come to rough you up, as a father. They come to rough you up and put you in line with the gynocentric system, period. And, it just is that bad. And I don't think, I think sometimes we like to kind of fantasize and play this game of escapism, like, well, you're taking it too serious, you're taking it too whatever. Go out there. There's plenty of places where people aren't taking it as seriously as Mgtow. Mgtow is the only place where you can't even attempt to take it as seriously as it really is.
Yeah, that's why we got to bust through this. They don't want men to know that. There's 5.6 million men paying child support in this country right now, and they want to keep those men under control. And they want them to believe in this American dream, happy slavery, happy slaves, Uncle Toms. They want them to be Uncle Toms for the system. And I'm not the guy that makes slavery aid out of slavery. I'm not gonna tell any men to man up. Matter of fact, I'm gonna tell men to man out, and that's gotta scare the hell out of them.
Right. Wait, because you're telling them to not to man up, but to what? To lemonade up?
No, the man out.
Oh yeah.
Go, man out. Become a Mgtow. Don't play into the system, and at some point, equal force will be necessary here with these guys, with these men, with these judges, these corrupt judges, and there's so many parts to the system that is so corrupt. When you go in front of that judge, if he gets to put you in jail, they make money from that. Uh,
Absolutely. They're all
it's
feeding off of male blood. I mean,
it's
who
yeah,
just, what is the major divorce we just heard last week? I can't remember. Someone's getting totally fucking divorce raped for a fortune. I mean, it's just standard. It's just par at this point. You can't reasonably look at, the landscape and say, well, that's just an uncommon event, right? It's not it's the
not
system.
it's
It
the
is
system.
the
That is the system. It's not uncommon. It happens to one out of every five guys I know, or one out of every four guys even I know, are being run through the system and are afraid, are terrified to speak out against it.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you can't. Um, you
Yeah,
can't.
when you're up against three cop cars full of thugs and M16s coming to your house, it's pretty
That's what.
tough.
I mean, if you haven't noticed, like, okay, this is. If we could just go into this for a second here. I don't know, not to be political, but I think it's of interest here. We have a time when the government monopolization of force is so extreme
Yeah,
and is so well um, documented by what we're witnessing right now. So, we're blowing up the Middle East with our weapons and our bombs and our guns and all this, and at the same time, you have that same president, preaching nonviolence and remove the guns over here, right? So you guys can't have guns. I mean, it's so fucking ridiculous. You couldn't even make it up. Um, yeah, ceding full that because that's where we're at. We've ceded so much a monopoly on force, to the government that they can come to your house and you have no recourse. We don't have any rights anymore. They're really, we have barely little shreds, little ghosts of actual rights. You know,
yeah. The only way it's going to stop is for small groups of men like us uh, to be braver, to be to say the things. We like to keep this thing nonviolent and all, but I'm not all for that myself. I'm what I am. I'm a soldier. I'm that's ingrained in me already. But at a certain point, where do we say no anymore? You have to say no. We got to get something from this thing, and it's got to happen real fast because our sons and our sons' sons and them are the kids that are going to get hurt if we do nothing. And that way it infuriates me with these guys
right?
that they want to poon feminists, they want to make fun, they want to use this as like Messenger was saying, somewhere to make a couple bucks, not really do the message because it is serious. It is serious, and
Right.
sooner or later, Johnny Midnight says we have rights called AR-15s. Yeah, we do have a.
I mean, the way they try and spin it, where it's like, if we take guns away, I was
Yeah,
just thinking how they spin the uh, they spin the guns rights discussion the following. So they try and make it as if we take guns away from people, then they can't hurt each other. And the whole point of and the citizenry being armed and being a
right,
potential militia is to counter the government. It's
right,
balance for the
yeah,
government, right?
yeah.
That's
We don't
and
want to hurt everyday citizens, and
right.
but we know at a certain time in America that we are good at making the government back off, and that takes guns. You
Mhm.
know,
Power is power at the end of the day. That's all.
yes,
That's you know
right, yeah.
because you can reason with reasonable people, but the government is not a reasonable person, right?
No,
The
it's
government is not
force.
reasonable. The only thing they'll ever understand is power and force.
Yeah, force. I always give the if you want to see force in action, the way force really looks when they come to your house, when you haven't paid your child support or you get behind a felony child support or everything, and those three cop cars roll up with M16s. Uh, you remember the movie? What was that? Uh, Captain Phillips.
I don't think I saw it.
Yeah, with the pirates out at the end of the movie, they used force, and it ended very abruptly, and that's what they're
Oh,
going to do. Yeah, that's what they're going to do. And it was a very good, no matter how they tried to bargain, no matter how you try to bargain, no matter what you say that's right, no matter what, they will use force, and then that's it. It's all over. And
Right.
uh, we have to have equal force in this country, and AR-15s is a good way to do that. I wish we can get M16s, but I'm building it. I'm
Well,
building it.
that's exactly another very surreptitious lie that they inject to, stupefy people into being, for guns rights. They say that there's no way that, you know, the citizenry could ever compete against the government because they just have too powerful of weapons. Now, it's not without some truth, but it's the uh, the the flaw is being fatalistic about it, because the reality is, as long as
Right.
you can hold on some semblance of force, of actual power, the ability to project power as a people, then you at least you have something. So take the case study, perfect case scenarios, right? You have the Middle East. You
Yeah.
got the Middle East, and these are guys that had like fucking bottle rocket, or shoulder rockets, and a few AK-47s, and look at what they were able to do against the United States military, right? With all of our tomahawks and all of our nuclear,
Hmm.
whatever, they, they fucking bled us out for 10 years. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's just not true that um, that having some force on the part of the citizenry is effective.
The militia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what you have to do to get rid of the government in these cases, and it's a very simple, easy, complex. You have to evict them from their buildings, and then they have nowhere to run the government from. That's an easy process if you think about that. Uh, you shut their gas off, you shut their water off, or you leave the water on, and you get those sprinklers to come on, and it ruins everything in that building. And that building is useless. There is no government then. And they talk about guns and everything. Guns are not what you need. You have to use your brains in this thing. In any military, you know when a lot of the guys were in the military, you know what we were doing. We were trying to avoid the fight. We were just simply closing down buildings, and
Right.
uh, and then they could not run from that building. They had to go run it from a house or run it from a bathroom and hide. Uh, and that's when the government becomes irrelevant, and they become a joke. Uh, AR-15s are great and everything, but uh, uh, it's a
Yeah,
weapon.
no, I agree that, I mean, it's not about, like, yeah, like, violence is not the answer, but it's sort of like you have to maintain power. You just kind of,
Yes, you have to.
it's an
Yeah,
it's a unnecessary evil, I guess you could say, something like that.
yeah. I like the story about Joseph Stalin when he was shutting down the and they had social systems similar to what we have now in Russia. The Bolsheviks or whoever he was fighting, I can't remember who he was fighting. Maybe someone can. And there was three separate men. They give the names of the men, but they thought there was going to be this big firefight, and they were coming in the city and everything. And no, there wasn't a big firefight. Joseph Stalin walked up to the Health and Human Service building. He knocked on the door. Someone answered, and he said, "You all can go home. You're laid off. Go home. You don't have a job no more." Guess what happened? They went home. And then he took the building. you
That's what a
know,
little strategy can do for you, right?
yeah, that's a little strategy. You can either fight or you can just go home. And that's what we're telling and that's what we will at some point. Eventually, this thing's going to break. Uh, it's at what was a couple guys call it. That's the breaking point here in Mgtow is we're just going to have to tell them to go home. They will no longer be needed because we're done with it. That may come with some force, some semblance of force, but hey,
Yeah.
if that's what they want, that's what they can get. I would suggest to the government that they start talking to us now
Yeah.
before it gets to that point.
Yeah. I I'm kind of fatalistic about the government, I'll be honest with you,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, they're
I feel
morons.
like that train has left the station. That motherfucker is, there's no saving it.
Yeah,
It's a lost cause.
yeah. They're
We
so
got to start from
cocky.
scratch.
They're so cocky, and in itself, that is a fatal flaw. Being cocky with you. Can you imagine the government being cocky with the American people? It's like, yeah, you just keep being cocky, and then when I knock the fucking smile off your puss, that's usually what happens with America. You got to knock the smile off these guys' pushes and send them home, and they'll be like, I didn't see that coming. We told you for years this was coming. You know?
I would love to see that. I would love that.
uh,
The roadmap? How do we get there, Traversable?
I don't know. Just keep Mgtow going. Start, arming your militia. Talk to the guys at your local militias about men's rights and about how really bad it is. These are the systems we got to take down. Those courthouses, they got to
Yeah,
go. 50-50 custody that you can get from your local library by going through a computer screen is what we need. The no more arguing in courts and funding lawyers, making them into big arguments. That's all they do is stretch out the big arguments so that they can suck the local businessmen dry.
right, right. And that, that really, again, to me, it's the critical thing in Mgtow, and it's the danger of watering it down because I think the the most most potent thing that men have right now to affect any kind of change, because appealing the government is just like please, right?
Yeah, please.
But the only the best weapon that men have right now is completely just depriving the system of their support,
Yeah,
just starving it the fuck out, right?
starving.
So starve the lawyers, starve the judges, do not engage with them, completely pull your support back. And that's why Mgtow, you know um, kind of really being serious and somewhat disciplined and committed about pulling the support on everything is important, because if you really water that down, then it really loses its efficacy, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We hear the MRAs often like you got to go to court, you got to fight this thing, and that's going to make a difference. All you're doing is paying them to do what they're doing.
Mm,
No, once men stop paying them to do that they're doing, the lawyers will both go become business accountants and where they're needed, protecting the rights of. But as long as
right.
they have this huge gynocentric system that taps every man out and they can get in their pocket, they'll continue taking that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, lawyers are lawyers. They'll take that every single day of the week and then laugh all the way to the bank. Starve those. Yeah, Debo just said it. Starve those motherfuckers.
It's the only way, man. It's the
Yeah.
only way.
And I do believe that every man that gets in a scuff with the government over child support, debtor's prison, slavery, that sort of stuff, take those pictures, you know, write down
Right.
those names. The Jewish people did that at one point, when
Yeah.
they
For
described their enemy. Okay, we're taking your picture. You're now on record here because you're the guy we're going to want to come see after this thing pops.
There you go.
You can hide in your home, but you can't hide from us now. And it's the beauty of Mgtow is it's got that Fight Club mentality. Oh, we're going to be the guys we're going to be guys picking up your garbage. We're going to be the guys, everywhere fixing your car. We're going to be the guys spitting in your soup, making your dinners. We are those guys. You can't hide from us. You can't hide
Absolutely.
if when Mgtow gets as big as it is in Japan, and it will. Uh, that's 60%
Right.
of the males in the society. You will not be able to hide from us. And Americans, fortunately, have a different mentality about this thing. Uh, we are not like Japanese males, and we are not like any other males in the world that we're going to be asking permission. I stopped asking permission from these people a long time ago. When we come, we're going to come.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
my buddy says to people like, "I will be to see you."
I will what?
I will be to see you. That's that's his little and that's like my whole life will be to see you, and that's what my whole life is about. Someday I will be to see them people, and
Yeah.
they will fucking feel me then.
I mean, that's just it. Restoring some accountability to the situation. There is none. And
Yeah, there is no accountability with those people. They got their system set up. They like it because they're sitting in their big houses with
yeah,
their maids and their swimming pools, and they're laughing about how much they took from John the carpenter and Bob the electrician, and how Phil's business is no longer because they sucked everything they could out of that. No,
yeah.
that, yeah, these guys are the guys that you're gonna have to see someday. Uh, and that's what Mgtow is trying to bring into fruition. Uh,
I mean, if you can imagine, you know, males in mass or just in a larger and larger scale refusing to maintain the infrastructure, refusing
oh
to
yeah,
get that oil out of the ground, refusing to do whatever the fuck it is that everyone depends on until they're respected, until they get commensurate remuneration, until, they can, it's just, you, you, you gotta, we gotta undermine those who
yeah, yeah,
oppress us.
yeah. But these are the hard things for Mgtows to talk about. I say I'm quite outright and out front. Uh, it's just the way I am, But a lot of these MRAs and the emancipate one the uh, the sort of they don't want to ever think about force. We can't let's do a non-violent protest that'll wake them
Right.
up. Gandhi and Martin Luther King and all those people, that's days of the past. They smirk and laugh at non-violent protests now. They,
Right, right. There's a lot of truth to that. But that would be like that's kind of a theatrical protest.
yeah, it's a
If you
theatrical.
do like if men, if Mgtow or whatever were to grow and some significant percentage of men were seriously just deprive the system of their compliance, of their support,
Yeah,
and not just as a show, but as like on an ongoing basis, um, going off the grid, really just fuck it. Um, you know, it would buckle, it would bend, and it would buckle because it is upheld on the shoulders of men, and they should just get what they deserve.
yeah, yeah. Yes, and there's important things we're doing here about putting MGTOW together, and I think that was Messenger's message this morning about, hey, when I see these people that hold licensures to the state, giving out the state information that the state would give out, I gotta wonder whose side they're working on. Of course
Oh
they want,
yeah,
of course they don't want the system to buckle. Of course they don't want they because they make money, and if the less men that put into that. Uh, the less money they make. Uh, uh, and MGTOW has to get together with these other groups. There's a lot of discontent groups out there right now that all have the same kind of message.
well, yeah. The
That
preppers, absolutely.
yeah,
MGTOW preppers are very much of the same mind.
yeah, the preppers, the going galls, what are those computer guys with the masks? Uh,
Yeah, anonymous. Yeah,
Anonymous, and even the Bundy Ranch people, the militias. They're all out here, but we can't seem to get everybody together on the same page.
unfortunately, anonymous seem to be somewhat infected with kind of the female
Oh yes, it
hegemony
is.
and all that bullshit, um, female influence and everything. But I think, but there it did seem to some extent that they were able to kind of maintain some of their integrity. So I don't really know what they're up to these days.
Yeah,
But
they got the total force of the Contra, the CIA Contra coin going on. And so they inundated that group, didn't they? And then all of a sudden you see the faces of the female anarchists and the lighter, gentler message. Let's
right,
the non, let's not let's do the nonviolent protest message, uh,
right,
and all the peacocking and dancing around like, and nothing got done after that uh,
right.
because of the full force of the they do it very well. They infiltrate those groups very well, and plus
Absolutely.
the original 14 were arrested, and no one's ever heard from them again.
Yeah. and they were doing the Paris attacks, like they kind of jumped in on the Paris attacks thing, and we stay, I mean, kind of corny, kind of like
Yeah, yeah.
feminine minded kind of stuff. It's like
The gynocentric took over. What'd you call him?
anonymous.
Anonymous. Yeah, yeah. Gynocentric anonymous. That's a joke. That's like it's just cool to be an anonymous now.
Right. You get chicks, man.
Yeah, we can get chicks and we can pretend like we're these big bad, you know, my fingers are my weapon. The telephone's my weapon. It's like, oh, come on, really? That's there's only one gender that can overthrow a government. That's the males.
Yeah, the more I come to realize it, the more I come to see that the government is female. It's not so much that it supports females. It's more that it's it's essentially the government is a bunch of males appointed by females, right?
Yeah, they do
Um,
the thug bidding, and
yeah,
they need males because we're just smarter. When they need a problem fixed,
right,
give it to a male and then pat him on the back and tell him he's a good boy and handsome, and these guys fall for that shit. You know, give
right.
him cut him off a little chip of that mommy shit, and they all fall for it because they're simps and white knights. You know? Yeah,
Yeah. It's funny. We talked about this before, you and I, and I think it's you have this idea of alpha. I think it's an interesting thing. This idea of alpha. All right, maybe we could just consider it for a minute. Maybe you think of government guys as guys that top the government, politicians. They're like alpha males, whatever. They're powerful, power suits, power ties, or like you're the alpha male on your block or whatever.
yeah,
But so a lot of alphas that are that seem like alphas were really just sort of like selected by females and appointed to that position. You know what I mean? Whether voted in or kind of like females can throw their support this way or that. They kind of all rally behind some particular thing, and then that thing goes forward and becomes powerful. So there's two kind of alphas, I think. There's one that is like a female appointed. It's always supplicating. Underneath all the bravado, it's really just really just serving the feminine and the female. Okay, and then on the other hand, you have an alpha who's like fucking outside of all that, and he's like he sees through it, and he refuses to serve that what is essentially corruption, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, so the government is just to me it's just an entity of fake alphas that are appointed by females to fuck everybody in the ass and basically just give everything to women. That's what they are. And um, unfortunately, the real alphas who can actually, maintain decorum and a proper order, somehow, they're just not thriving in our current environment. They're just not
right.
around.
Yeah, they're not thriving. The bridge builders and the building builders and the they're so minimalized now.
Right.
Uh, I look at the GSA now, and I used to work for the GSA for a short period of time until I seen one thing. Uh, you as the building contractor, I'm the guy that's going to come in, put the rooftop air conditioner on, put the air conditioner, put the heater in, do those big jobs. But there's three centers of gynocentric above that. You're going to have a female engineer telling you the room sizes, which you already know. You did it in your head because you're a male and you've done this stuff so long. You don't need that, and they're leeching off the job, the money you should be getting for actually doing the job. They're just it's a leech system. That's why we call them parasitical, because they parasitically. And then
Right.
the letter I got one day was, please try to maintain costs. And I'm thinking, you fuckers, yes, excuse me, you people have 3 levels of gynocentrism in the GSA, opening big bottles of moats and having birthday parties up there. while I'm doing the work and you want me to cut my goddamn cost? And it's like shameful. It was just shameful, you know?
Yeah, I'm hearing that all over the place. I got a buddy who works somewhere, and he's like, they're just trying to squeeze them like a turnip. All the equipment is going to shit, and they're just trying to force more and more, quote unquote, productivity through the place that he works at, and
Yeah.
they're not even keeping the equipment up. It's shitty. This, you know, um, it's eating itself, just like we've always, it's eating itself. This system.
Yeah, gynocentrism works down in the rabbit hole goes deep. It works down in everywhere there's a man working, there's some kind of woman out there just leeching off and doing lighter than air work is what I call it. Uh,
I
lighter
love
than
that
air.
phrase.
Yeah, it's lighter than air work where she's just pushing a few numbers through or stamping a piece of paper and saying, "Oh, look what a good job I've done." I built that building. You see that with the housing industry now. You used to have guys that did the flips and everything, actually went in and did the tiling and
Mhm.
redid the walls and everything. The alpha males that do those.
Vanilla Ice was doing that for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now you see the female come in, pick up the phone and call the contractor and then charge twice the amount for the house. And they wonder why our fucking housing industry is all out of bent. It's all bent out of shape. And she goes, "This is a $500,000 house, and it looks like my house." I'm like, "No, that's a $70,000 house."
Yeah, yeah. Sandman made some, I think it was Sandman, made some good comments about the Canadian or Toronto sort of
Yeah, Toronto.
real estate market. With all women basically going out and they're like, uh, they just like buy property as if, without really thinking about it, and then it just jacks the prices up, and then nobody can afford shit, and then they can't afford shit, and then it's just doomed. It's
It's a
doomed.
doom. Yeah, it's a doom. We've seen that once. We've seen the bubble on that pop, and what happens when those kind of bubbles pop. And we have so many bubbles now, right? Just sitting around, just getting ready to pop. Oh, one's gynocentrism in general. The other school loans. Uh, women getting free training. Who's going to pay for that in the end? Uh, it's just getting
Right.
bigger and bigger and bigger, so you can have useless jobs and then get pregnant and sit at home. Jesus, that makes me freaking crazy. Uh, who's going to pay? She's not going to pay for that. She's just going to ignore that loan for the rest of her life until daddy earns a social security check, he dies off, and she gets it. You know?
Right. Right. Well, it brings up some kind of one of the interesting things I was thinking about lately with the it's like women, they don't they don't think of individual men, like they don't think of men as individual human beings. They just think of them as these faceless um, things that basically they can drain, that they can, like when they think of society, they think of women as humans and then men as this like amorphous blob that they can just extract stuff from. You
Extra,
know?
yeah. That's the way it's been for so long. Hey, Arthur, did you?
It's weird.
Yeah, yeah. That's why we've labeled these things now. We gave them names that we used to not have when Barbarossa said men are utilities and why it's stuck. Why we use that term because that's how we are to them. Uh, a way to get us to do the job, a utility. You're not your human. You're a working. You're what Varnicket would call that meat machine. Uh, you're just
Right.
a robot. Uh, that's a good couple good books there with Varnicket. How he goes on about I'm the only non-robot in this world, and the rest of the people he thinks about it very correctly. The rest of the people are just meat machine robots doing work for you figure out how to tap that out and
Right. 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 Um, yeah. It comes down, when I think about it, sometimes it comes down to I I think it's an interesting way to look at it. So women, females, they have kids, right? They have babies,
hmm
and they, in their mind, they think that they should be compensated for that. To them, that is sort of like work. That is sort of
oh
like
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's like something that someone should pay them for the for the productivity of having kids. That's in their mind. That's really how they think, right? The problem is, well, and men sort of think of like, well, if I choose, if I'm going to raise a kid, then it's going to be it's like I'm a person and I'm going to have and I have human dignity and that's going to be respected. But the female doesn't really look at it like that.
No.
She says, I'm going to have a kid and somebody's got to pay for it. Okay,
Right.
but she's not going to say who. She's never going to point who. She might point
Right.
to X man, but then she's like, okay, this man's going to pay for it. Maybe it's his kid, maybe it's not. Maybe she wants to move on from that man, and so now she's like, okay, society has to pay for my kids.
Society. Yeah. Yeah.
Society has to pay for my kids. But who is society? Society is men,
Men. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's the sexual cryptist thing. Once you understand,
Exactly.
though, I love that video. The guy said he explained sexual cryptist, and he said, "Now you know everything there is to know about women. Uh, Women need the community. When she's looking at the community, she's not looking at when a woman looks at you, you think she's looking at these guys. Some of these guys, a lot of these guys know it, but some of these guys think that she's looking at a single entity, a singularity. She's not looking at a
Right.
singularity. She's looking at the father, the brother, you, the friend, and she might have a plethora of other males, and she's hiding her fertility for a reason. Uh,
Right.
She's hiding her fertility so she can use the community for when that baby does come. All the men in the community think that the baby is his. Uh, it's a simple way to explain it, but
Absolutely. No, I
that's
think
what you
that's a
get
very important concept.
yeah, when
Yeah.
you get with the man up thing, that's what the man up guy's telling you. He's saying that baby is mine too,
Exactly.
because
Exactly. That's what.
he's
Yeah.
reflecting that sexual cryptus in the female, and he's saying you're the bad dad, you're the deadbeat dad, and now I have to fix you so the sexual cryptus in the community works. Uh,
Right.
it's a very pertinent concept in Mgtow, but not a lot of guys can get that because they can't jump over that deadbeat dad thing and that because that's their patented answer every time you hear that.
The shame. The
The
shame.
shame, yes, the shame that gets thrown on us.
That men are uniquely capable of feeling. Women don't even, they can feel shame, but they don't feel guilty. Um,
Yeah, that shit rolls off my back now, and that's why people get very hostile with me because they try to do the shame thing, and it rolls off my back. The first thing men in here have to get rid of is that shame. Let that shit just roll off your back because they're going to keep doing it and keep saying what we need to say in an aggressive, hostile way until they get it, until they can at least. But I don't think women are never going to embrace the idea of sexual cryptis, and even though that's 100% true, because it would tell on themselves. And you know what Winninger said about women not being able to embrace what the truth about things because it tells on what they are.
right. Well, I've been giving this some thought lately, actually. This is a really good topic. I'm glad you brought it up. Um, and so basically, I got a video coming out pretty soon, but basically, the idea is, women or female, women are the art of war.
Yeah,
Women, men, we tend to accredit things like military strategy, and because you think, so there's so many elements. If you read through the Art of War, pretty much, all of that is what women have been doing since the beginning of time, right? Cryptis, deceiving your enemy. It's all about deception. It's all about
manipulation. Yeah,
manipulation. Exactly, exactly. So women really are the art of war. Like that, they go way back. They were doing art of war before men were even thinking about it.
oh yeah, yeah. They got that manipulation thing down. Yeah, I was reading about that earlier this week. I can't. I bought this really shithole book uh, about the Judas syndrome and manipulation, and
Mm,
I can't remember what that guy. If you look at the Judas syndrome online, you'll get the guy's name, and then it was some Christian version of the Judas syndrome, and it could be well better defined about what they do and how they manipulate. And
right.
Let me see what my dog's doing here for a second.
He wants in. Gotta let him
Yeah,
in.
he wants in or out. Hey, Dougie. Hey, Dougie. Go lay down, buddy. Good job. Good job, boy. He thinks he's bad. He's just this little white dog that's fluffy, and he thinks he's a badass warrior.
Got a little of the feminine mind going on.
Yeah. It's snowing out there today. I know he wants to go out in the snow because I don't know if he's ever seen it before. He wants to go out into the snow because there's something weird happening on out there. It was the first time this year it snowed.
Mm, real
Yeah.
nice.
Oh yeah. I
Good to
took
have a
the
little
Jeep
snow.
out. I took the Jeep out earlier. I snuck away for a couple hours between this, and I hit the Jeep into four-wheel drive, and I was like, "Whoo!"
Got to use it.
Yeah, that's some fun shit there, isn't it?
Hell
You
yeah.
can't, it's like I hit it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, go over that, go over this." Yeah,
Putting that 4-wheel drive to work.
yeah. It's an old Jeep. It's kind of cool looking. It's got a loud muffler, and it sits up a little higher. It's the Ohio Hillbilly Jeep.
Yeah, yeah. It's a Galt Jeep, huh?
Yeah, the going Galt Jeep. But we're good. So where were we at before
Big
Dougie rudely interrupted us?
Mgtow militia.
Yeah,
Yeah, Cryptus and you know,
yeah.
um,
The women use this. They use that. You got to become very attuned to what they're going on, the manipulation in this whole thing, and then you got to be aware of the white knights just acquiescing to that.
yeah, yeah. It's mind control. It's all psyops. They've been doing psyops on men for forever, man. And it's just they're so good at it. It's so effective.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, parasitical. They figure out when we say they're parasites. We don't mean that they're bugs or subhuman or something like that. No, we see they're sucking off the blood of every male. That's how they live.
Right.
They're parasitical in their nature. It doesn't mean that we're saying that they're bugs and we're going to stomp them. No, we don't believe that. I think that's where the MRA gets it a little confused. If you say to an MRA uh, that women are parasitical, they'll automatically go in their mind to the man up thing, and then they go, "Well, you think women are bugs?" No, I didn't say that. I think they're parasitical in the nature where they dig in and they suck anything they can out of the resource.
Right.
And there's a difference. I mean, they're good at it.
Damn good at it. And if anyone who denies that, if you're, to come with that, like it just belies a lot of stupidity, a lot of immaturity if they don't
Oh
get
yeah.
that.
Yeah, like The
Um,
Shining always says, you think you're going to control the woman? These POAs think they're going to control the woman? That's so funny. Yeah, we've
it
seen how
is. It
that
is.
works out. Yeah, we all us, us older guys and the guys that have been through these relationships, we've seen how that works out. You're not going to control that.
Especially in an environment where she has every card, right?
Yeah,
So if she is playing that role, if she's acquiescing to your, macho PUA advances,
yeah,
whatever, it's very strategic. She
it's
she
very.
she she knows what she's doing. She could pull the plug at any fucking time. She could own you at any fucking moment because she has everything in her court. So even when you think you're owning it, you're not really owning shit.
Yeah, yeah, we see. Sandman's last video was sort of on that lines where the next male that comes along and she may make a good choice. It doesn't matter what choice she makes. She may make a good choice, she may make a bad choice, but what she's saying there is when hypergamy kicks in and the cryptus kicks in, uh, that's natural in her. She's going to go make that choice, and you're out. And what she's saying is she's going to take advantage of the next opportunity that comes around in the system, the community, uh, and it's going to happen. And if the Uncle Sam becomes the last backdrop, or in your prospective government, whatever you call the health and human services of that becomes their backdrop. They're not going to fall no farther than that backdrop.
Exactly, exactly. There's
There's no consequences, accountability, or responsibility in that. They just fall. The net catches them. The social net catches them.
right.
Then they get offered free college, free living, an income, two incomes, your income.
Free internet
The
money.
next guy, yeah, the next guy that comes along is just showers her with gifts because she's the special princess. Damn, that's a rather engaging and talk about the American dream. That is the American. Women still have the American dream because they get a slave.
That's an interesting way of putting it. Some truth to that. I mean, but it is. Um, if you, I think, as a female, right? If you don't win in this society, you've got to be trying real fucking hard.
You gotta be self-sabotaging real hard. And I do see girls. We see girls all the time, women all the time that self-sabotage everything. I mean, when they get to a point where they're going to start doing that career or they've gone to college, they'll self-sabotage it because they know the backdrop's there and they get comfortable. It's a
Right.
matter of it's a matter of comfort then because it's a scary thing. We all men go through this. God, when we mature, we move out of our houses. You're living your little apartment there for a while. You're going to change your job, but you go, man, I don't know if I can change my job because at least I'm comfortable here. And then you change
Right.
your job and you start making more money and you see the opportunity out there that abounds us. Uh, it gets a little more ease. You get a little more ease in the system. But there's a lot of guys and women do this too. That women are 10 times more fearful. You got to understand, women are 10 times more fearful if they see HHS and Uncle Sam or whatever you call it, your respective society. I'll say it again. Uh, uh, that kind of backdrop, that's easy to fall into for the rest of their lives and say, hey, whew,
Yeah.
boy, at least I don't have to experience that fear of moving on and moving up, and and at least I don't, at least it's comfort, you know.
Right.
Uh,
It's security for them.
It's
Absolutely.
security for them. They
They can't.
become
They can't really fail unless
no.
they are hell bent and just absolutely committed
Oh yeah,
to
committed to
fucking.
failure. And you see them too. We see them all the time in the drug rehabs and everything. I did
Right.
have an interesting story to come up with. If you don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes, just look at the drug rehabs for men and look at the drug rehabs for women because they are separate. Uh, in
Yeah.
your area, you look at the Florida. Are you in America, male feelings? I know you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, look at those Florida. There's a reason why every time you talk to an ex-prostitute or an ex-crackhead, she moved to Florida because those places are resorts.
Ha ha ha.
And
I didn't know that.
yeah, there's a
I didn't.
difference between now go to your local. Everybody knows a guy that got hooked on heroin or a guy that got hooked on opiates or something. Now those drug places are little houses that are not even very well kept up. That you have to bring your own food, and there's no the the system for men is very much different than the system for women. Uh, when they what they teach in the drug rehabs and those you can look them up. I can't remember the name of them. Uh, they teach the girls how to get back respecting themselves. They give them the spas, the nail care, the saunas, and everything. And what they're really saying is they're teaching them how to use hypergamy again and use their feminine wilds to bait a man, get a man, and then not be a problem to the government. Now, the idea,
Exactly.
the idea for the
Nailed it.
other side of the drug rehab for the male is you're going to bring your own fucking food. You're going to man up. You're going to start working. You're going to do this and do that, uh, and you're just going to get back in society because we need you to take these other girls here off our hand so they don't cost us so much.
It would be. It would be hard to believe if it wasn't so true. It would be
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah. Just go do some research on that. Most of these guys never do the research that's necessary to breach the rabbit hole to kind of look at how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Right.
There's a lot of true. I tried to explain this the other day to a friend that works in the rehab system, and And he's like, no, it ain't that way. And I was like, and I know, I've worked in those systems. I work in male housing, so I see it all the time. When you run male housing, you want a grant or you want any kind of a grantor, you have to lie to them. You got to tell them you're doing rehabilitation for drugs. You're doing rehabilitation for this, and then you get to see it, and you go, oh fuck, you know. There's
It's
a
really that you don't know how bad it is until you see it, right?
Right, and it's the same thing Messenger was saying. You don't know how bad things are until you see it. And a lot of people are protected in their lifestyle, and uh, they go to work, they come home, they do their things. They're not really looking at the system in general until the system comes and visits them. And
Right.
that's what the that's what Messenger was saying. The system is going to come visit you if you take a female into your life and you get her pregnant, and then you're going to be able to see that system oh so clear.
Yeah, yeah. I think, you know, the weaponization of children,
Oh yeah,
it's just something that really, it's the reality. It would be hard to believe if it wasn't so real. But the reality is that your sperm and you and your relationship, if you once you have a kid, that is at that moment, you know, the woman, society, everybody, that's a weapon that just completely deprives you of all sovereignty. Your
yeah,
life, your rights, anything. That is, you know, it's weird. It's weird that that's the way things would have gone. But it is. The kids, they're a
that's the way it
weapon
is. Yeah, they
to
they
destroy you.
they're building a human wall of little children to protect ourselves with, and they're
Right.
kid. Basically, when we say, well, you'll hear every me messenger shining, every guy that's had a kid will say they kidnapped my kid and they held me hostage to the system.
Right.
That's 100% true. Is what they did. I wasn't allowed to see my kid. They kidnapped my children and held them hostage to the system. And they don't care what happens to the children out there. Uh, they don't care if mama moves in a crackhead or starts selling crack. They don't care if other men come in that house and abuse them. All they want is to see that you're paying your money, and
Yeah.
you get to see them on the weekends to make sure they're okay. And that's all you're really doing after a while. You're going to see that they're okay.
Right. You can't really affect their life very much. You're just kind of checking in on it.
Right, right, and it becomes very disturbing. And you ask why a lot of these guys will ask why some of us are angry. Well, we have right to be angry because they just kidnapped my kids, and they're telling me come on Friday, pick them up, take them to McDonald's, make sure they're okay. And what the kidnapper is really saying is we're going to give you the phone call. In a classic kidnapping scene, he says
Right.
they always hand the phone, talk to your daughter, and then oh, that's what they're doing. They're letting you talk to your daughter, but what they're saying, we still have her. They're handing the phone back to the kidnapper, which is HHS, and going, we still have them. You got to pay us. Bring the money to this address.
Absolutely. It's not so much an analogy as it is the matter of fact, matters of the fact. It's just
It's,
true.
it's true.
It's
But
kidnapping. The government is the kidnapper. The woman is the kidnapper. The child is the hostage, and they're holding ransom against you,
they're
holding
holding
them.
ransom against you, and the only way you can do it's like work hard. It's back to the magic sunglasses. Work hard, go to work, be a good citizen, live in that one bedroom house, get your cable if you can turned on, eat those ramen noodles, and suffer until and I'll tell you what, most of these guys have this really really fucked up concept is they're going to buy their way out of this. 90% of the people in America cannot buy their way out of it.
That's a good point, and I'm glad you bring it up because again, going back to today's sort of kind of the main topic, Messenger's video, the whole PUA, dealing with women. Okay, so some of these guys take this angle that what they're doing, in terms of the message of having men deal with females is harmless. It's not that, it's kind of okay. But here's the thing, what you just said right there. You know, if you're not a man of means, if you're just kind of like a 25, 30, just your average guy out there,
Right.
okay, and you're dealing with women, the fact is, if you're not a man of substantial means, you really are a sitting duck, right? The only ones who might be able to kind of like, you know, ha- defend themselves to some extent against everything we're talking about, the whole everything, women, the system, is if you got some substantial kind of resources to deal with that, right? So if you're telling to I'm just talking about the irresponsibility of encouraging average men to go out and deal with women. This is what that PUA, this is their bread and butter, right? They're dealing with men who aren't who otherwise don't get women. And so these are average men who
Hmm.
don't have means to the large, to the for the majority. And they're just that much more vulnerable, right? Because
Right.
they're just going to get totally fucked, and they have no recourse because they have no money, or they don't have enough money, right?
Right. There's no way to get enough money. Once they start taking, if you're making the average guy out there, let's say what's he making? $45,000 a year, if
Yeah,
that. Uh, when they're taking half for taxes, 42% for taxes, and then you only have twenty-four thousand
like
dollars in,
35,000 bucks to
yeah,
work
35,000, and then they start taking half for child support right away. You have 50. You're scraping to put together an apartment and food on your table. You're not going to be able to afford a lawyer. And if
No,
you are a man of means, and that's what we hear all the MRIs go, oh, just fight it, fight it, fight it. It'll cost you $100,000 to fight it.
sure.
That's 3 years, 4 years pay. And if you got that broken down already, that's 5 years pay. How are you going to split that up between the next 10 years of living? You can't. There's no way to do it. There's no. The government knows this, and
Sure.
they're putting people in poverty so they can't fight the thing. And then they go, okay, I'll just accept it and pay what I can and live like this.
It's absolute tyranny, man.
It's
Absolute
tyranny.
tyranny.
Yeah. Most of these guys are not the top 10%.
Yeah.
Uh,
If these guys want to go out and kind of preach PUA to guys who are already rich and can deal with the consequences, okay, fine. They might,
Fine.
fine, but leave the other 90% alone. Because you're just sending them into a trap.
Yeah. Yeah. And
You're
now,
sending them into Normandy.
right now, in Nico's case, he's a doctor. If he wants to take on that, I'll get a vessel, get her pregnant, and then she'll raise the baby. I'll just flip her off some month because he can't afford it, obviously, if he's in that profession. But him telling the local plumber, or that's dealing with the GSA, and getting and telling him to get cost-cutting measures, barely scraping out a living.
Right.
No, no, it's not. It's not possible. There's a reality factor that comes in here. Uh,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But if you took that same pay, and Heartburn will testify to it, if you took the same pay, worked as a single bachelor most of your life, you're going to get those things in life. They're going to come to you, the $100,000 house, the 120,000,
Mhm.
with the shower, the great shower unit and everything. You're going to become you're going to get a
Sure.
target on your back by the female once she sees that you have saved this money and did that, because that
Exactly.
all becomes into the when I'll just call them, the community sees that you have something to take, they're going to try to take it. And if you let a girl in there to take it, oh yeah, guess who's going to be living in your house?
It's the sneak attack, man. It's the honey trap.
It's the
It's
honey trap.
timeless.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. It's like you're going to be a Mgtow for like 10 years, accumulate the wealth. You will accumulate some wealth as a Mgtow, depending on your skill set and the structure of living that you do. But
Yeah.
after that 10 years is over, you know, you still are a target for the gynocentric. That doesn't go away. That's the rest of your life. You're a target for the richer you are. We see it all the time in the news.
Right.
Women, they throw out false accusations of rape and try to marry up to these rich guys for a reason.
Yeah. And,
Uh,
and and this is the thing, man. It's like once you see how pervasive it is, we see it all the time. It's as you say, it's constant. We see it in the news, the
Constant.
media all the time. All these women, they all go after the ballers, they all go after rich men, they all try and bleed them out. So, like, what do you stand to gain from dealing with that? You really, like, if that's the mentality of women, and you can see it clearly that it is, if that's their mentality, what what are you interested in? Like, you know, like if you're to go out to go to a club and pick up these kind of people, like what are you gaining out of that? Like, you're dealing with a base kind of someone who's just doesn't have much going on, in terms of
Yeah, I got the impression you wanted to say you're letting a crook into the house.
I was going to say a creature, some base
Yeah.
animal, because I mean you see what they're about, and so what does it do for you to be like, oh, I got her in bed? It's like, well, so what? You know what she's about. Who really cares? Um, anyway,
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah, this thing goes real deep, and the men they don't see it, and it just hurts me because I know, man, somewhere down the line, why are these men leaving Mgtow? Because they didn't believe us, and now they're ashamed because it happened to them. Uh,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of inevitable, I think, these days. I don't see, in other words, if you look at it, and what's the game plan? If you're gonna, what is the game plan if you're gonna engage in that? You're going to go to the marriage direction. Well, we know that's not going to work good. You're
That's
going to
not
be
going
a
to work good.
serial. You're going to date serially. So the more you date, the more you. And let's be honest, dating is code for fucking. So you're going to fuck women kind of continually. It just that inherently jacks your odds up of having some problems, right?
Oh yeah,
So you know what I'm saying? So either way is a loss. You lose either way you go. So I don't really see what the strategy is there, what the game plan is for sort of like, you know, playing this chase women kind of a game. But I don't want to be too critical. People can do what they want, but that is kind of the position we're taking. The argument we're putting forth today, inspired by Messenger's nice take on it, is that it seems pretty empty. It seems pretty silly.
yeah, yeah. Them risk. Just look at the simple risk of a condom breaking. 1 out of every 10. They'll tell you on a
Yeah,
condom page. Go look on a condom page. They're going to tell you 1 out of every 10. And I don't know how true that is. Even if it's 1 out of 100, that one's going to kill you. That one's going to
exactly.
do you in.
How about
This.
roulette, man? Who wants?
You talk about roulette. It's just a matter of time.
It's a matter of time, and throw in the fact that to have sex with a condom like a few times is like, okay, fine,
Yeah.
but that shit gets old. So you're like, I don't want to use a condom, and then you're back to square one. You're total risk,
Yeah.
100% risk. For
100%
everything.
risk. Yeah. How many times have you been with a woman and you did it maybe 3 or 4 times and all of a sudden that condom's off? You know,
Exactly.
it just happens. If these guys tell me it doesn't happen, they're fucking crazy because it happens every single time. She'll take that thing and throw that across the room and say, let's go bear. You know?
Sure, sure. I mean, it's the nature of the beast, the whole the enjoyment, the pleasure, whatever that you're getting out of it. Uh, there's no getting around it. Condoms, they subtract by 40, 50, 60%, and so now where are you? Is it really that great anymore? It's just a circle of doesn't go any. It's like circular logic. It doesn't really go anywhere. Um,
Yeah, the only
but
safe bet is find a girl with the total hysterectomy. That's pretty cool. you know, but, how many of those are you going to find? Uh, Short of that, you know, not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to deal, especially young men. Young men. Do you ever look at the statistics on teen pregnancy?
I haven't. I've
Yeah,
only caught references to MTV's, like, now it's, well, teen pregnancy shows or whatever, but I don't know. Is it
yeah, yeah,
pervasive?
yeah. When you look at the statistics and you start looking at the graph on that, and you can get it right from the Teen Pregnancy org, .org, the government org, or the or
Right.
one of the statistical bureaus. I would say go to the Statistical Bureau of the Bureau of Statistics and look at it. You're going to see that they've tapered it down from 12 to 17. And then you're going to see at 18 years old and 19-year-olds, basically, because they are teens, that teen pregnancy goes up 400%.
400% as
400%
when they become teens, you
when
say?
they become 18 and 19. Guess
Wow.
what? Yeah, guess what they have then at 18 and 19? They have a slave for the rest of their fucking lives. And they don't care about those boys. And these boys are not, these boys are like, oh, geez, I didn't see that coming. There's
Right,
a reason
right.
why it goes up 400% at that point.
Yeah, they're like, they're already playing games. They already know what's up. The males, they're unsuspecting, but the females, they know they're already playing strategically at that age.
Yeah,
They're playing for keeps.
yeah, they're playing Russian roulette. Hey, Shining, you in the room there?
Yeah, how are you guys?
Good, good. We were just
Did
going
Shining.
I
over.
did I miss anything?
Uh, yeah, about an hour and a half of about an hour. We've been talking about messengers, the total realistic message of messengers video, and the total realistic message of the Mgtow. Uh,
Hmm. Yeah, I just watched that earlier. Yeah, it was a very, very good hardline red pill. I know for a lot of people, the dosage might be a bit high, might be a bit strong, but I think us guys around here, us monks, we're sort of used to the strong coffee, aren't we?
yeah,
That's right. Yeah. To chase or not to chase pussy, right? It's a big question.
I don't know. After that, I watched Turtling Monkey's video about having to taste the pain before you make change, and I don't know. Heartburn's here. Is Heartburn here because he's a guy that hasn't been through the ringer, and
he's
I don't know how far on board is this guy. Are you there, buddy, or are you knocked out? He's
Uncle Bern.
Monkey.
yeah. He's sleeping on a chair. I do that once in a while. I just fall asleep on the back.
He's falling asleep with his pipe and his ale.
Yeah.
You got that relaxing voice Traversable. It can put a guy out, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Sorry, I got that soft voice with the kind of grisly undertones.
Yeah,
Baritone.
I I'm finding it difficult to accept Turfling Monkey's conclusion. I like to think that there's some guys, and I'm sure some of the guys are listening, that they don't necessarily have to get put in prison or end up in hospital after attempted suicide or losing half their marbles to take on the fact that the game is rigged. I'm sure maybe any guys out there that have not been married or through divorce court and are on board with the monks. Anybody out there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, you know, the whole thing with can you learn through others, right? Can you learn from the mistakes of others? Like that's the core idea, and it's like, I mean, I can do that. I really enjoy learning from the mistakes of others, and I don't really understand why more men don't do it.
Well, I guess it's got a lot to do with how you were brought up. I mean, teaching children how to learn hard lessons, like, for example, eating candy. Have you noticed how I'm adjusting my speech to the US audience? Eating candy, yeah. At a young age, you're told to brush your teeth, and obviously brushing your teeth is not a pleasurable experience for most of us. But our children were taught to do it. Now, does that child need to have toothache or a serious tooth decay before they brush their teeth regularly or look after their dental hygiene? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Let's CFM. Let's get him on here. Let's debate the guy. The guy likes a nice debate.
Can men learn from the mistakes of others, or
Well,
not
this is
have
a
to
really
go through?
tough one. I mean, the
I
fact
sure
that
know.
that men are having to give up a large. I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't say a large portion of their life because a lot of guys are TFLers anyway. So not necessarily, but certainly for some guys, it's very difficult having to fight their natural lusts and desires. But I don't know.
Right.
I found those men in Mgtow. You know, I thought I found a group that had discipline, that had willpower, self-control. I don't know. I'm sort of on the fence with that one. What about you, male feelings? You haven't been in prison or been had your children taken off you, have you?
No, no, I haven't. I think I've dodged some bullets. I've had some close calls. I've I've seen up and close, what sort of women are capable of, and inclined of. And I mean, I've seen, just lives destroyed, children particularly included. And but no, I feel like I'm to some extent fortunate in, uh, you know, somewhere between instinct and trying to learn from as we're talking about, learn from others without having to go through myself. I think to some extent I did do that. So yeah, that's my
So then,
personally.
would you be more inclined to agree with TFM on that you need to be burned before you understand or make a change?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of giving myself as an example of the opposite. I didn't have to myself. Um, but the question is, how capable of that are men in general? I guess that's the big
Yeah,
question.
that would
And
be a question of how deeply entrenched they are in the gynocentric, too.
yeah,
Well, Joe, you've been around here for some time. I mean, just a short time. I've been here just over a year, watching the channels come and go. I mean, there's been a lot of young guys, a lot of new channels. I have been taking note. I have been, observing the types of guys, the type of Mgtows that come in and out, and generally those guys that haven't been burnt, they usually leave. They usually don't stick around. They usually jump off the Mgtow ship pretty
Yeah,
quick, within a year. Um, but still, after saying that, I've seen some guys that have been burnt that have jumped ship too. So there doesn't seem to be like a one rule for that, or one formula that fits the bill
right.
for what men need to make a change.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think to the extent that MGTOW has value, it will try and gear itself towards that harder line where if it's possible to get through to men, then the approach the harder line approach, I think, is the one that is more likely to do so. If you start to water it down, I think it loses its potency, and so men that could be reached won't be reached,
Mm.
in order to prevent
I mean,
that.
I sometimes try to put myself in the other guy's shoes. Like, if I came across it, uh, obviously the channels they vary in many ways. But when I'm watching like a strong video, even watching my own video, and I'm thinking, well, how would I view this content if I hadn't gone through what I did? And it's quite difficult to remove yourself from where you are. I'm sure you can sympathize with this or empathize with this, Joe. It's hard to put yourself back into the shoes of that old mangina simp that men are brought up to be.
yeah, yeah. We see a lot with the modern single mama, single baby mama. When those boys come to MGTOW, they kind of get it sometimes because
Oh yeah.
they had to live with it, and they've already pre-lived the pain. Uh, and then in my situation, I'll just say it. I come from a very normal family. It was the traditional family. We had a lot of kids. The only reason I left when I did is because it was a lot of kids. There's 9 of us. So that's what drove me away. But I always looked at there was no problem with my parents. It was the illusion that I was under that this thing does work out. But that kind of changed somewhere in the 80s and 90s, and it become it doesn't work out anymore. We have to ask ourselves why it doesn't work out anymore, and the government, how much the government has to do with that. So I was juked. I wasn't, I was fed. I was given a book that
Deceived.
was. I was deceived. I was given a book that wasn't true in my life, and until I seen that, until I was burnt. But nowadays, kids don't have to go through that.
Yeah, but I think in our parents' generation, I think things have changed. In one generation, I would say it was different in our parents' time. Things were very different.
Yeah,
I mean,
things were very different.
even not only not even legislatively, but culturally, things were very different. I mean, what our parents find our hobbies and our pastimes, and even the things we share in technology, they would find that very, very strange, and
Right.
probably kind of difficult to see the relevancy of the things we discuss. But they didn't go through school. They didn't go through the type of problems that we have with the authorities and with people these days. I think things are different. I think it is a different world.
Yeah, money was worth more, and back then child support was like what, $30 or something back in the 70s. If you remember the men, I got to pay her $30 a month, and they're complaining about that. And those guys, they're generally making about the same money in the 80s. That so I've seen my father's paycheck, and he was bringing home quite a decent
Well,
amount even back then. Money doesn't go as far, and child support is like $1,000 now, guys. Come on.
just speaking of the UK, if we cast our minds back to the 60s and 70s, it was, even back then, the couples that divorce and separation, it wasn't, in the UK at least, it wasn't heard of. I mean, the term child support, I think most people wouldn't even understand what that was. They think, oh, well, that's as somebody looking after their child. It's not, a monetary payment.
Right.
In my first job, I used to talk to a lot of the elderly, the 80, 90-year-old men and women, and nobody got divorced back then. None of them got divorced. They were either their spouses died, or they never got married. I mean, they were the only people I was talking to in their 80s and 90s, and yeah, I mean, these days everybody's divorced. Everybody's been through 2, 3, 4, 25 different relations. It's not unusual for a guy to have 50 partners, or girls have 50 partners in this day and age. It's just totally different.
Oh, hell yeah. It's not even shameful for a woman to think of herself as having 50 partners. For me, that's like hands off, shameful. I can get a disease shit. But nowadays, kids like, oh, these girls run through that and before they get out of high school.
Totally, it's true.
Yeah, it's like God.
But let me ask you guys this: it's like these things, they are an outcome of our biology, right? We used to have marriage that kind of structured our biology in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Now marriage is gone, or it's just, the institution is destroyed, and our biology is being expressed in a different way. Basically women sexually can do whatever they want. So what would be like a solution? Like, just for sake of argument, imagine the scenario that would fit female biology the best. The following scenario, where essentially we just accept what female biology is for. So they want to basically fuck and reproduce with a variety of, say, alpha males, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they want to. So females say, okay, they can have their serial monogamy. So they can each kind of like, or they just go and they basically fuck, you know, three, four, or they reproduce with two or three or four alpha males over the course of their life, whatever. Um, so that would be kind of like the natural base case of society, don't you think? And so the question is, then from there, what could we do that would be, you know, if we were to impose on our base nature, what would we do?
Yeah, it's an all. It seems to be a difference between two all or nothing systems. Uh, I, I'm not all for the one system of egalitarianism that women just become the breeders in the society, and all men pay. You know, every single person that works or not works pays 30% taxes, and that goes in, and they take care of the woman, and that goes on. That's not totally out of the question because that excludes hypergamy. Then, uh,
Well, you're saying that most men don't reproduce, but they pay the taxes to support those kids. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying everybody in the society pays equally into the taxes that take care of that. Right now, we don't have, and then we have a certain section of society that seems to be exempt from those taxes of the cryptic community.
So you're talking
Uh,
about women basically don't
yeah,
have to pay.
women, and then we got the shaming techniques or one. You know what they're saying is what these man up guys are essentially saying when they say to a man to man up and do that. He's saying that he's not going to pay your bill, but that same son or that same daughter is going into the society and he's going to become the soldier. So why should you better use my son as a soldier? Because I paid for it totally. Uh,
Exactly.
there's a certain dishonesty in what they're saying. Uh, if you want to do the communal thing, then uh, let's get rid of all this bullshit. With the Republicans and the hardcore people are going, well, the baby mamas and the welfare dads. Well, fuck that shit. Uh, let's make all of them baby mamas, and let's make them all welfare dads. Everybody's a baby mama, and everybody's a welfare dad, and we're all paying into the same system, and then that stigma goes away, and the system works then. Uh, you can't have this halfway system of
Well, people talk about
Yeah.
change. People talk about how we're going to fix things. TFM said, the only people that are going to make any changes are the guys that have been burnt or have tasted the pain. But think about it. The situation we're in now, the situation in the UK, in the US, in the West,
Hmm.
no other society has ever come back from this. Because for us to have any meaningful change, we'll have to completely turn society upside down. You know, what's black is white, what's up is down now. Because basically, the women are now, we are in a very, very gynocentric society. Women are in charge of men. Men are the new, uh, uh, the new bitches. The man is a utility. And the thing is, for us to change that, we're going to have to change society. The only guys that are recognizing this either labeled crazy or they're Mgtow, or they're Mgtow, or they've got some red pill taste in the MRA activity. And
Right.
right.
unfortunately, the entire society is geared towards this. It's geared towards this gynocentrism. Even if we
Yeah,
change the laws,
that's the
even if we
problem. We got to get rid of.
Absolutely.
My thought is we got to get rid of the marriage system totally, 100%. Get rid of that thing. Get rid of the court system,
Hmm.
and get rid of all that, and it just make a simple gen relief system where it doesn't matter if she gets fucking pregnant, and it don't matter that you're the daddy, because that court system takes care of there. There's no such thing as marriage. There's no such thing as baby mamas or baby daddies. It's just a system that it falls under now, and no one takes blame. Everybody pays into it, and it's just a system where
So
it
there's no
just
fathers in that scenario, is that
there's
right?
no, yeah. Well, if you choose to be a father in that situation, yeah, but that really doesn't work because that brings back the whole idea, the ritual idea of someone to hold accountable. If you're not going to hold,
Yeah, that's not going to
nobody
work.
gets held accountable because we all pay into the cryptic system, which it should be.
No, I don't think anyone's going to agree with that one. I think men want to be men. Women need to be women, and fathers should be allowed to be fathers. Mothers need to be allowed to be mothers. I'm not going to call it traditionalism because what's tradition in one part, in fact, what tradition in Scotland is not tradition in England. So even within the same continent, the same country, traditions change. But if we look at uh, other countries, if we look at, like, for example, the Middle East, I mean, everyone brings up the Islamic or the Muslim model of society, or they bring up China, or some very foreign form of society, and see how they work it. Men have always been in charge, and the government has stayed out of family matters. They've stayed out of domestic cases. And that's how it was, I think, back in the UK and the US. I mean, whenever a husband and wife had an argument, the police didn't come round to resolve it. I mean, it sounds stupid. I mean,
Right?
a husband
Yeah.
will have an argument,
The
please turn up
government
to
has to
resolve
be.
it.
Yeah. The government has to be
And by
totally out
resolve,
of this thing.
by resolve it, you mean destroy the male. Sorry, go ahead,
Destroy the
Destroy the
Chris.
mail.
marriage,
Yeah. Yeah.
destroy the family, destroy the house.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. So it's a hard thing there. Either you have to have total the old system that we have, or total a new system. There is no halfway in between where we can have people dabbling in the system. Uh,
I don't
Right.
know. We're seeing a lot of fucked up things coming out of it. I mean, we mentioned that, the family, but there's a lot of shit coming out that we haven't mentioned. For example, this guy that's just popped up, Angelo John Gage, which I think you just touched upon it, Joe, before when you closed down the last one. I mean,
mhm.
he's a really fucked up man, isn't it? He's calling Mgtow to rise up and to kill people to defend the women. He's
That's just
he's really
satire. That's
he's
bullshit.
really crazy. No, he's serious. Have you watched him?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-mm.
I seen his last video. I watched a little bit of it. I couldn't take too much of it because he started doing the typical shaming language
Yeah,
of
it might be satire, but he's replied to the responses. The MGTOW guys have been, they sort of responded, and he's responded with, "Oh, you MGTOW are all just gay," but it's not just him, because he's basically saying we need to save the white race. The white race is going to die, and we're
oh
getting
yeah.
this now. No, we're getting this. Why? How is the white race going to die? Well, in the UK, we're still 95% of the population.
All right.
How are we going to die?
They want little breeders is what they want because they're fearful of they just want little breeders to go out and be the little soldiers, for them. And that's probably what he was, or he considers himself as. I have some questions about that guy too. Uh, uh, what he was displaying in the background
He's just
seemed
hitting
like,
everyone with shock value. Yeah, I would dismiss
yeah.
it.
Mm.
Have any of you guys been in the Army or the Marines?
No.
Okay.
What are you eating there, brother? Some chapati?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you get to keep my idea? Well, the fact is, do you get to keep your dress blues? No.
Mm.
No, you hand them in. You get to keep your basic utilities, and you get to keep two sets of the gray the brown ones, but you don't get to keep your dress blues. Having them hanging up, it was a prop he bought on fucking eBay.
Mm. Yeah, he's probably a faker. If he is satire, it's sick, because he's basically he's charging up a very sensitive topic, and he's rubbing everyone up the wrong way. But
No, I
he's
think
just like, go on.
yeah. I think race is a little bit interesting in the context of MGTOW, in the sense that it's something that you can trigger anybody emotionally if you bring up race, right? You can always incite some kind of emotional response if you bring up race, and that's
Yeah.
why people do.
Well, that's why they do it because it's well, when we talk about the contra coin with the CIA, what they want to do is they're always going to bring up race, and then that's gonna diminish the quality of conversation that we have.
Exactly right. And so in the context of Mgtow, it's like, um, who really, where did this idea of race, who perpetuates it, who benefit, basically in terms of males versus females. And I think, I think race is a gynocentric idea largely,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
is.
because it's basically something that, if you imagine its roots, you can imagine a bunch of women shaming men, saying protect us against them, right? That would be the roots of it. And then there you set up a boundary of, you've separated men, right, along quote unquote racial lines or whatever. But the reality is that women don't really see race. All they see is like resources, right? So they will go wherever the resources are. They don't give a fuck about race. So it's just such an empty. It's just a tool, It's just a tool it doesn't really have any useful, I think, application. The concept of race.
Yeah, it's just a divisor. It's a
Yeah.
divisor to make
Mhm.
things worse for whatever you are. Let's face it, race has never served any purpose, or racial context or racial division has never ever
No.
served any positive.
Especially in
So,
MGTOW here, because all you're looking at is four avatars here. How do you know what race we are?
yeah,
I'm
Can you
black.
really? Yeah,
yeah,
you could. Yeah, you could. I've been sitting here talking to, you know, two or three guys that I know are of ethnicity, and still get accused of being a racist.
yeah. The thing is, this guy Angelo, he's representative of a problem that's rife amongst our society now, and that's young guys with no direction. They've got no direction, so they'll jump on any bandwagon, anything that makes them, puts a little bit of spice in their life, or gives them
Right.
triggers any type of passion. And that's the thing, boys, they're not given any direction.
It's single motherhood, man.
Single
Single
Absolutely.
motherhood,
motherhood. Yeah.
lack of a positive male role model. I mean, who do they look up to now?
Right. It's
Ronda
MGTOW.
Rousey. Ronda Rousey's the king now.
Yeah. It's
It's
MGTOW just
terrible.
an entertainment for these guys. We
Yeah,
say
but
things that they would never roll off their tips, and they find them exciting. So it's an entertainment for
yeah,
them.
it's a novelty. I mean, that's
It's a
why I think
novelty.
we're getting a lot. I think that's why some guys they come on, they find it interesting, and they have a laugh. It's a little bit of a novelty, a little bit of drama for them. Because we say things that they probably haven't heard before, and it is. Let's face it, it is a very very positive, very I don't know. I hate using the word a masculine type of conversations, discussions we have. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Oh yeah,
quite
the men do
it's like
those.
very
Yeah.
strange.
How many times have you gone out lately? And this happens to me often because everybody in my community know who I am and what I do. So I go out to a party, a pig roast. I do this a lot. Some kind of general community event or something, and all the guys run up to me, and they all have girls. And then when we get in that little group, it's always real male centric, and they're like, ah, my wife's a bitch and she did this last night, and I'll go, yeah, you know why she did that? Because of this and this, and they laugh and they get their giggles out of it. And then as soon as one of those girls walk over, man, they are back on the simp train as soon as, like, oh honey, I'll be
I
right over, I'll
know.
get you a drink. And that's what these guys are doing here too. They think it's
Yeah,
entertainment.
I hate seeing that. I hate seeing that, and I think that some of these channels that have come and gone, they've jumped on and off the ship. They've seen a pretty skirt on the riverbanks. They've jumped ship and they
Yeah.
swam to the banks. They've had a little fling, and the woman's thrown her back in the water.
Yeah, now we don't got a ship to go to, but uh, it's just funny how all men do it. You can see it at weddings and events like that you might end up going to. I try not to go to those things anymore because they make me so sick. But you'll get a bunch of guys sitting there talking about the girls and saying really truthful, honest things. Like my wife was yelling at me. She's fucking terrorizing me for the last 2 weeks, and unless I buy her a new, and you say to them, oh, geez, guys, that's just happy wife, happy shit. Don't buy her that and let her get over that. And then, I can't, it's cheaper to keep her. And then he uses that, and then they go, and it's all funny and bullshit.
Mm.
But, not to us. It's not entertainment to
It's
us
not a
like we see.
joke. It's real.
It's real, and they're experiencing it, but they're somehow glazing it over lightly. What do
I
you call
think
that?
I think generally men want a direction to go in. I mean, men they naturally have passion. They want to
Yeah,
build something.
they want to be able to say that out in public, and they want to be able to say that to their wife, but they just don't have the fucking balls to do it.
Yeah.
Because they're simps, manginas, fucking pussy beggars, and we have names for those guys.
It's
Mm.
true. I mean, uh, males, from the time they're small, they need a certain amount of guidance. They really do. You have to harness maleness. It's like a Maltese cocktail. It's very volatile masculinity, the testosterone. It could go different directions. It could be
Yeah, I mean,
explosive and destructive, or it could be, if harnessed properly and directed properly, it's a very powerful force for good. You know, and males who don't get the proper guidance, it's not good. You know.
I think we're seeing the negative effects of that. We're seeing the negative effects on society where children, their only teacher has been number one, the government approved simps that are in the comprehensive schools, in government run schools, and their mother, their crazy batshit mother, who flies off the handle if she burns the toast, and it's very sad to see. I mean, I'm seeing these kids, I'm meeting these kids, and they just don't have any direction. They've got no, they don't know they don't know what to do with their lives. So you get this idiot like Angelo John Gage. He's jumped on this Crusader bandwagon, and he's had this idea of saving his people from this evil empire, and he's had it romanticized from old Crusader ideas and Crusader stories, and he's jumped on board this, and I see this a lot. I mean, it's not just with this white supremacists, it's with the other guys as well, with a lot of the other minorities who I'm sure you guys will have heard of. I mean, for example,
We see it on both ends too, don't we?
yeah, I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, men, they want a direction to go in, so they'll
Yeah.
jump on,
Yeah.
black power, white power,
Yeah. They'll
religious power, and
join
it's
any gang. Males will ultimately seek some sort of, kind of like power structure. They'll always gravitate, and if they have a shitty power structure around them, like a gang or whatever power group it is, then that's where they kind of have to go, because they have to make their way in the world.
Right, it's the rite of passage that
and
they're missing in their life.
and I think that's why men join the police and the army, because they want to belong to something bigger than themselves. They want to be part of something, and they want to go in a direction, and they want to build something which they think will like continue their legacy. Obviously, once they join the police, or the army, they realize that it's all bullshit. That all their orders, all their actions are all based around some arsehole getting as much money from his death as possible. And the police are not serving justice, they're not serving righteousness, they're just serving the interests of the elite, of the very few who make up the laws.
Right, they're tax collectors for the gynocentric now.
Yeah,
It's absolutely true. And you just look around society, and what do they have? Like, there's no real, like in the past, maybe churches would have been a place for people to go and get some guidance, but there's really nothing, there's no direction in society today. All you have is like shitty media. It's all pop culture and garbage. To be confused in today's society is like a guarantee, unless you have some strong sort of like guiding, some strong guidance in a positive direction.
Some foundation.
Yeah.
No, it's I mean, even if a man does find something that he enjoys doing, for example, I know this is just my own personal example, but I mean, in my family, my mum and dad, they weren't very clued in on a lot of things, and we bought a computer, and I started learning computer programming by myself. I was reading the books, I was learning BASIC at the time. Anyone that knows computer programming will know that's one of the first They use. I was teaching myself basic. My mum said to me, "You're wasting your time, and and nothing good is going to come out of pushing buttons." When men find something, when boys find something that they feel that they could use that would benefit them in future, they're normally shamed or put down. I mean,
Right.
I think that there is a problem in society where boys are not encouraged to be boys.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
There's no drop back or fall back masculinity either. Like we were talking about before, a woman drops in society, no matter how far she drives, there's always a backdrop to catch her. Uh, the
Yeah.
backdrop for men is the cement pavement out front of your local market, begging for money as a homeless man. Uh,
So true, man.
uh, in this system that we were talking about, like you said, pushing buttons and doing a keypad and doing your work online, the only place to fall from that is could be trades, and that's why I always say Mgtow has to become the system for males, and screw the rest of the system. We have to become the system, so there is a drop back, a backdrop to being masculine, uh, and then okay, that didn't work for me uh, and I can go become a tradesman, or I can. There should be some male saying, "Okay, what do you like doing?" You know, let's start thinking about this very masculinely, and what do you want to do in life? And you
Yeah,
can choose to be a computer designer, but that's not realistic for a lot of people. Uh,
mm.
how
I
many
mean,
how many computer designers do they need? Really, maybe
Traversable.
1% of maybe society, not even that, like a quarter of 1%. You're not going to be that fucking guy.
I knew one guy. He wanted to be a mechanic, so he wanted he wanted his dad to buy him an old used car so he could like experiment on it.
Yeah.
But his dad told him to be a lawyer.
Yeah. How many lawyers do we have in society? Not too many. Are you going to be that 1%? Or that half a quarter percent of society? No, most of the guys end up to be the 80%. Uh, the regular guys, the drywallers, the carpenters, the carpet layers, the carpet cleaners, the
The
cooks and
average,
chefs, the average guys,
the average Joe.
and if they don't know how to do that, the average Joe, yeah, the average Joe, it's not shameful to be the average Joe, but now you have to start living into a society that's more realistic.
I don't know.
Uh,
It just seems. I don't know. It just seems there's no direction for men. I think.
there is no direction
I
for
agree with
men.
that. I really do.
Uh,
They're walking. If you're a young male, you're walking out into a world that is so gynocentric. Like I'm watching a few people grow up, a few young men grow up, and the shit that they're saturated with on TV is like all this female. It's all about women all the time, and they walk out into the world. What is there for them? What is there for them? There's really not much. You know.
no, no, and especially in this, unemployment society that we have built at 17% unemployment. Geez, now you have to start tournament competing. Now you start really talking about, okay, you have to be the alpha now. You have to, if you're going to turn and compete for jobs out there in
Right.
the steel mills or the regular job places, the factories, the mills, and everything that are realistic, uh, you better bring something to the fucking game. And you know, because you got to
Well,
compete.
how did it used to be? I mean, a man would have a trade. He'd be a carpenter or an ironmonger or
Yeah,
a builder or something. He'd have some type of trade, and he'd pass that on to his son,
right.
and
That was
and
the
he teaches his son that,
Yeah, that
and,
was the
and
backdrop of the religious trades too. The Catholic Church and the church in general would teach those trades.
yeah, anyway, and then the father would also imbue his son with like old stories of either his
Yeah,
grandfather or some, I don't know, some folk hero. I don't know. They used to have them. I'm sure they did. I know
yeah,
Scotland and Ireland. They've got all these very I think they're called folk tales. See,
Mhm.
I didn't even know the term.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. Folktales are important for men too. Having a hero that can. But a lot of times, the hero that's pushed on these boys is the Pixar fucking white knight hero. That
yeah, it's very strange
Right.
stories now, and it's all like so feminized and so censored. You know, it's not. I mean,
so
it's all
feminized.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah, they've squeezed out any decent existence for a male. Any kind of a portrayal of a male in a way that is not some kind of a slave to a female or just some kind of supplicating shithead. Um, they've got nothing to aspire to.
Mm,
yeah. I
yeah, well,
often think
so.
about that. The story of the guy with the lance, and he's going to fight the windmill.
Mm,
The
I don't know.
windmill.
Yeah, he was blind, and but he thought he's fighting for his girl, I can't remember which story that was. He's gonna go take on the windmill because he was blind, and that's what they were saying in that story. You're fucking blind. You're going to fight for this woman that doesn't exist, and all you're fighting is a fucking windmill.
That's a good message. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I just feel we've lost. You guys know I'm totally against nationalism. I think we are one human race, and I think the fact that guys from all over the world get together on the internet, and we really do set the conversation on fire. I mean, we really do develop the discussion to the nth degree. But I think there is something to be said about old folk tales. I mean, I don't know any. I mean, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah,
sure
that was Don
there's
Quixote.
loads.
Yeah, Don Quixote. The story of Don Quixote was I was trying to think of. Sorry about
I think in a few years' time, I think Star Wars will be the folk tales we'll be telling the
that.
kids and
Well, it used to be a good
Kill
one.
Bill.
Kill Bill. Oh, jeez. The original Star Wars, I believe I think that's a pretty good message. But
It
then
is a good message
the
about
current one
heroes.
is a gynocentric piece of shit.
It's the
It's all about
gynocentric piece
like,
of shit. Yeah, that's how they're turning everything fucking
Yeah,
gynocentric.
but
You know.
don't hold
what?
my fucking hand.
But like I don't know, maybe we could use like old films to tell novel stories. Like Rocky's a really good one about a man that strives for his dream and he works and he believes in himself even though nobody does. And then what Karate Kid is brilliant about a kid that gets bullied. He tries to solve things without violence, but sometimes you have to kick ass. So that's a really good story to tell kids. I don't know. What do you think? What about you, Heartburn? I know we're not giving you much chance to talk. Oh,
I'm sorry, guys. I'm making stew right now. I'm back and forth from my computer.
Cool.
Right on.
Yeah. Yeah. What is a good message for boys out there? It could be, what is a good message to form in boys' eyes? What kind of hero can we
Okay.
give them?
First of all, we need to imbue them with character, with caliber, with inner strength. To persevere. Not just patience, but perseverance. We need them to have positive goals. We need them to know themselves as well, to know their strengths and their weaknesses. And we need. There's so many things that's missing from kids. There's kids I just meet. They're just so that. I mean, they just band together and get some guy to buy them some cigarettes or some what's it called, some alcohol. Then they'll sit in the park for 6-7 hours, and then they'll go back
Yeah.
to their single mama.
I always come back when the whole idea of kind of like, fathers are irrelevant, that kind of a thing, that whole phenomenon started, coming online. I was open to it. This is years ago. I was open to it. I was like, okay, so the kind of with the homosexuals, it's like, okay, so anyone can raise kids, man, woman, female, lesbians, homosexual men, whatever. Anyone can raise kids. Nothing really matters as long as they have a nice adult to kind of raise them. And I kind of I was okay. I was open to that, open-minded. All right, okay, well, so I guess, but it seems to me it's become clear that that's a giant fraud, right? It's a huge fraud that that young, that boys in particular, in order to reach their potential, really do require that kind of father masculine role, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was supposed to be the rite of passage. Women were you're supposed to get off the fucking tit about 12 years old, and that boy should be handed to the father where he has a rite of passage. He can try to exceed the father, and that's what boys do. That every boy and every father dreams of the day where his son is more masculine than him and wants to just beat his ass. And as soon as that happens, where that boy goes out and he's ass kicking, doing machine. That's the happiest moment of your fucking life when your boy's going to be okay. But we don't get that inscribed in men because they're still on a fucking tit at 18 years old.
At 35 years old, they're still on the
Yeah.
bloody tit with some of these guys. But let's look at what happens. I mean, when a guy grows up, he's like in his 20s, developing onto his 30s, and he's going through tribulation, he's going through trials. He normally turns to his life lessons. I mean, we call them life lessons, lessons that we take on, and they stick with us. And they're normally things we heard from a man. Now, me personally, when I look back and I reflect on the things that, the words and the stories and the tales that really struck with me, they all came from men. And the thing is, I mean, when I was at school, there were mostly women. The teachers were mostly women. I normally have a very good memory. I remember all my teachers since I was 5 years old, and the women used to talk to me, but they used to say really stupid stuff. Now that I think back then, you don't know. Back then, you're 5 years old. But now, when you're a grown man, you realise, that she was talking some shit back then. But all the things that the men told me, these are the things I remembered. But the boys these days, they don't get that. They're not taught these life lessons.
Yeah, and sometimes I think that the reason women can't really raise males properly, because you'd think they could. You'd think, it's not that hard. Why can't you just do it right? So maybe there's an underlying reason. I suspect the interests of males and females are so in conflict that a mother can't even really raise a male properly because her own interests are so in conflict with doing so. So, for example, like when mothers, the way they treat their daughters, like what you're just saying there, Shining, like giving her kinds of like advice and guidance and very intimate, like, guidance on how to be a woman and be a female and succeed at that, right? Mm. To do that is a very intimate thing, and you have to. There's a lot of self-disclosure, and they have to disclose a lot about the female themselves to kind of do that. The point is, for a female to male to raise a male properly, it's in conflict with gynocentrism. You know what I'm saying? So she would have to basically explain to him how fucked up women are. She would have to explain to him how adversarial females really are to males in reality, and these things are so against her interests that they're never actually. That's why they fail at it and they can't do it.
I would also add that a girl needs a father too, because if you think about all the strong female, all the real females of real character and of the wisdom and understanding and intelligence, they all had very, very strong, positive male role models. They all had very strong father figures. I mean, if you think about we were talking about Ann Coulter earlier on. I mean, she's a prominent female. She's always quoting her father. She's always saying, "Oh, my father told me. My father taught me that." And Hillary Clinton as well. You can argue she's a silly bitch, but she's always talking about her father as well. Every woman that's come off any prominence, they've always had their father in their lives.
I've really noticed that as well. Even like a few years ago, after getting into at some point, I was able to. It's kind of a certain thing I do with myself, a little bit of a game. I say, when I meet females and I come across them, it's interesting to determine, see if you can determine whether or not they have a, what kind of relationship they have with their father. And I think you can probably hit that like 9 times out of 10 because of, the character is quite different. A female who has a good solid, father figure in her life will have a certain character to her, a certain just, qualities to her
Definitely.
that are very distinct and
There's no
and
difference
particularly
between.
attractive, I should say.
I would agree with that.
There's no difference between the way a girl is supposed to be raised and the way a man is supposed to be raised. We have something called penis envy, and every little girl goes through it. And that's when she's supposed to be released to the father so the father can give her direction in her life. And it's the same thing. The mother is supposed to release the children at a certain point, both male and female. If it's true for one, it's true for the other. And you notice with some of these women when they've had that great direction in their life where their father becomes their hero and their father becomes their guidance in life, that they're stronger, they're more independent, and everything kind of works better. It's the natural way the family is supposed to work, and sometimes we just, the boy is supposed to go through the rite of passage. No, a girl has to go through a rite of passage with her father too. It's a little bit different how we treat our girls. It's a lot different how we treat our girls, but it's still the same idea. It's to make them...
Right.
Well, the reason I'm saying this is because in continuation with TFM, he reignited the point, and the point is, what kind of society, what kind of change are we aiming for? I mean, obviously the Mgtow we're mainly concerned with changing ourselves and trying to affect as much positivity around ourselves as possible. But you see, my point is, if the children are like this and the children are not getting the upbringing that they should be, they're not going to understand what they're missing. They're not going to know exactly. You see, TFM put it that they need to, people need to feel pain before they realize they need to change. But if you don't know that you're going through pain, if you've been anesthetized to the fact that you've never known any other lifestyle, you've never known that, you're supposed to be living a certain type of life. You're supposed to be in a certain type of a state of mind, of a certain type of ability. If you don't know that in the first place, and you've lived your entire life in a fucked up society, you're not going to know it. You're just not going to know. Like, if you think it's normal to have your kids and your house and being put in prison, and that's just like normal for you, that's not going to be a painful experience. You're going to feel like something's wrong. You're going to feel like, oh, it just doesn't seem right. But you're not going to get that pain compared to that man that said this is not normal. This is not normal. I've had, or he's lived in a positive state before, where the wife was obedient and sorry about that, and the children were well looked after and things were just going great, and then along comes the false allegation and everything's fucked, and the children are getting abused by the new boyfriend, and the woman's she's basically a prostitute on some substance, or the guy just messed up in his head. If you've been insane all your life, you're not going to know what sanity is.
You have no reference point. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And I see that a lot. I'm seeing that right now. Your brain becomes spaghetti, your mind becomes spaghetti, and there is no, you can't really tell good from bad at that point. And that is, in order to have that kind of ability to learn from your environment and recognize pain as being a lesson and learning from it, rather than everything is just a bunch of, poop floating around and nothing really, I do see these young boys that they're just like spaghetti, and I fear that they don't have that ability to learn from experiences like you're talking about. But
you see, let's say the Matrix. It's very difficult to, because we're talking about thing. Well, I've never heard anybody talk about this type of thing before. But let's take the Matrix for example. When Neo woke up, how did he know that was real life compared to when he's in the Matrix? He wouldn't know. He wouldn't know because apparently the Matrix was so convincing. The computer plugged into all his nervous system. It went right into the center of his brain. There was a there was a plug that went right into the back of his brain and all over his nervous system. So according to him, everything felt and looked and heard exactly the same. So how would he know that he's woken up?
Totally. Yeah, that's a good example. And I mean, not even to bring up virtual reality, which is pretty much we're kind of in a sim going that direction now, where we're going to have a hard time determining. We're going to put on our virtual reality and get lost in it, and then we won't know. Wait, which one is real?
Have you guys seen a film called Silent Green?
Oh yeah.
No.
Silent Green. Oh,
Who hasn't seen that?
It's a very, very old film. If you're old fogies like me and Joe, you can normally sit through something boring and get something out of it. I mean, we enjoy. Well, anyway, it's a good film anyway, and it's basically about in the future where everything's fucked. Everything's fucked. Everything's gone to shit. And the people there, they don't realise how bad it is. And it's not until that old man, he tries to explain to I think Charlton Heston. I think he's the main star, and there's an old man there, and he tried to explain to him that life never used to be like this. It never used to be like that. And I think that's what people like me and Messenger are trying to say. We're trying to tell you guys, life is actually good. Things are actually shit right now. You guys don't know how shit it is because you've been living in this shit for so long. You've just been desensitized to all the shit. You're basically zombies and you don't even know it. You're walking zombies and you don't really know. You don't even realize that you're going around trying to bite people's necks and eat dead flesh because you've just been doing it for so long. And I think this is a real problem with with the next generation, with the kids of today. They've lived their entire life without a father. They're not going to know the value of a father. They're not going to know the value of a male role model. Isn't that right, Heartburn?
Yeah, he's still making it stew.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a video the other day about the male voice. Some boys now they just don't take to the male voice very. But if it's said, but the same thing is said by a female, they'll jump all over and say, yeah, that's fine.
Do you know? Isn't that a sad thing though? I mean, the fact that Karen Strawn, Diana Davison, fantastic content. But if a man, I mean, it's cliche now, but we've said this 100 times. If a man said and did the same thing as these women did, they'd be just like me and you, Joe. They'd get 1,000, 2,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's a woman doing it, the fact that she's got tits and there's a couple of bulges there, she's got like a female voice.
Mm-hmm.
250,000 subscribers. People listen. People, they talked about. They're invited on the BBC. By the way, I'm not jealous. By the way, so
Okay,
that in itself.
we're all a little jealous.
We all look at that and say that in itself is horrifying. That these boys cannot listen to a voice like mine, or a voice like Heartburn's, or a voice like Male Feelings and yours, and take to it the same way as they would hear it from Diana or Karen. And then they gravitate towards them, and then I have to ask what kind of message they're hearing from the female voices in that, and it's not the right message because they still can't be fathers.
And it's not just because they're talking intelligently and rationally. It's not just because of that they're popular, because the most popular YouTube channels, the most popular celebrities are the dumbest bitches you'll ever find. I mean, Kim
Jenna Marbles, really?
And then, Jenna Marbles.
Because she makes me fucking laugh because she's so fucking stupid.
And there's that girl I linked to as well. I put it in my G Plus alerts as well. She's garnered 75,000 subscribers, purposely acting stupid. She's gone on saying, why do things weigh so much in England? When she said that the game costs £15, is why does a video game weigh so much? And she's gotten she's gotten a big channel just from acting stupid. So it's not because women speak intelligently that they're popular. It's just because that they're women.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
voice, that female voice that the men never have gravitate away from is so soothing to them, and they tell it on themselves. All those guys that are running over that they hear that from Karen and those girls are just telling on themselves that
Yeah.
it's going to be hard for them to gravitate into Mgtow because in this space you're going to get the father saying, and that's what Messenger was saying. He said, maybe I'm saying this in a father voice, and you guys are you going to reject that? But that's the way I need to say it. And
Maybe that's it. Maybe Diana Davidson and Calvin Strong need to take Messenger's video and just regurgitate it in their own voice, and then everyone's, oh shit, we're dropping this.
Shit, yeah. We're dropping a ball here.
I'm in with the monks.
Conflict resolved.
Mission completed.
Yeah, but it's telltale, isn't it? It's so telltale, and these guys are like, why? You know, I gotta do a critical analysis, and I gotta sit down someday and really figure out, go through a ton of medical journals and everything, and see what it is about that these men don't want to hear from the male. It's just so telltale about the Mgtow thing and the percentages of men that we're really going to get, because most of them.
We're just so acculturated into valuing the female, the feminine more. It's just you're seeing it there. It's just pervasive. It's kind of like the water we swim in.
Yeah, it's the water we swim in, and then when you say it to them, they go, "Oh, you're just being old meanie Joe. You sound like my father." Stuff like that. It's like, yes, I do. What are you saying? And what I'm saying is, you're telling on yourself. What are you saying about yourself?
Right. Yeah. I very quickly kind of, I don't know, female MRA comes out or a female, Mgtow supporter or whatever, and there's this initial emotional like, oh, that's awesome, it's a female and they're supporting us. It's so cool. Wow. She gets it, and like you identify and you think it's just weird, but pretty quickly you should realize that that's a bunch of bullshit, and it's like there's really nothing going on there. It's just I can't help but think a lot of these women just want to get ahead of the curve. They kind of see where things are going, and they're like,
It just makes me sad, when I see how it was when I was a kid, and I see what's going on with these kids now. There's just such a lack of inspiration. I think that's the thing I'm trying to get to. These kids are not inspired to be the best. They're not inspired to be the best footballer or the best.
Well, yeah, they get that from the time they go to school. 98% females in school. They get that female authority voice. Their mother's female authority voice. The fathers are excluded from the families now. That's all they're ever hearing.
They identify with the female.
They identify it as the truth because they're getting the teacher and the female teacher in first grade is saying, this is the truth. She's telling you the truth. So that's all these guys are accepting as truth. When they hear the male voice, they don't accept it as the truth anymore.
I don't know. It's
It's
a big problem.
It's a huge problem, and the government wants to exclude the male voice from everything now. Why? You got to ask the question, why?
Do you know, it's something that I think is also linked with the I think it's something that's also linked with the other government policies. I think government are generally trying to play down any sort of a masculine male because. We've sort of touched upon it in the past. The fact that the men are the ones that are most likely to revolt against government injustice.
Right.
The men are normally the ones that will form the militia.
Oh, yeah.
But if the men are all fucked up pussy beggars, they're not going to do shit.
No, they're not going to do shit. Yeah, we said the only gender that can take over. Well, Barbarossa says it. The only gender that can take over an unjust government is males. That's just the truth.
When has there ever been a female revolution?
They had one in France, but
I
question those guys.
They had one in France
because they're simps.
In the petite city.
Yeah, the petite city where every man is a simp male. Yeah,
I think it's even deeper. It's like women won't overthrow a government because women are government. It's like the state
Yeah.
is female. The state is gynocentric, like by its nature, by its whenever you have, if you look back on history, whenever you have these dictators or whatever, corrupt kings and different things, our modern government, it's really an expression of femininity and femaleness. That's what I would say. And so the reason females will never overthrow that is because it is them. They're the ones who will always benefit from that.
Do you know they call government Big Brother, but I think a more appropriate term is a smothering mother. The government is an overbearing, over-smothering, fuck you up because you're a man, mother.
Yeah, it's parentage, isn't it? We talk once in a while
Oh,
about
but because they say they're doing it for our own good. Well, they're
Yeah,
not.
they're all lies. It's all lies.
Yeah, I mean that's what a mother tells you. Oh, it's for your own good. Take this injection. Take
Right,
this.
right.
Eat this. Go over there and do that. And most of the time it's not. It's for her own good. She wants you to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all.
That's
all
the
lies.
double speak we get too. With I say with the double speak with they want you to do it. They want you to take a message where it becomes very female centric, and that's what I say with the female MRAs. You got to look at their policies, which policies they pick, and it's always something that could somehow be twisted into something gynocentric. It's never male homelessness or uh, uh, it's never masculinity, because how could they teach masculinity? It's never male homelessness. It's never what we talk about a lot. It's always something that could be slightly gently twisted back into the gynocentric that helps them out too and helps their cause, because they are women, and don't forget that.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I just, the analogy, you think back of any king or something, dictatorship, you've always got a strong man and his concubine. His concubine is always women,
Right.
right? And they're living a nice, comfortable life. They're taken care of, and so that model there where you have like corrupt kind of alpha, males, dominant males in power, and then females kind of all feeding off of them right below, that's the model. That's actually what they're always kind of driving
Right.
towards. They want that. They don't want this more like each individual is valuable and individual rights. They don't
Right.
want men in general to have kind of human dignity.
Right. Yeah, the last time we seen men act like this was probably during the American Revolution, and we can look back at Ben Franklin when Ben Franklin went to France to parley for some assistance. Uh, he talked to Thomas Jefferson out on the ledge, and there's a very good detailed account of they had people taking down what they were saying, a detailed account of what they were saying, and Ben Franklin said to Thomas Jefferson, he said, look at these French. They have women speaking in the back of their ear, telling them what to do.
There you go.
But from the other side of the picture, the Americans were going through this harsh revolution that we sort of are going through right now in Mgtow. We're saying there's going to be a revolution. We're
Exactly.
and so and they're saying the same thing back then as we said now. Let's get back to our Constitution. Let's start observing our Constitution the way it's supposed to be, and let's not have the women whispering in our ear and making gynocentric laws.
There you go, man. You nailed it right there. Yeah. If you have men who can actually rise above that, that's the only hope for a just society. Is when you have men who are not just puppets of the gynocentric.
They're not puppets of the gynocentric, and the last time we've seen this, I think, in our world was during that period of time.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And like the left kind of the mentality now is to laugh away kind of the founding fathers and the concept. Oh, that's so passé, that's so old-fashioned, and blah blah blah. That was a special. I tend to believe, as you're saying, that was a special moment in time. It was a very important moment in time.
They called it the Age of Enlightenment for a reason, because men were going through an enlightenment period. And now what do we call Mgtow and the red pill? We call it the same thing, an Age of Enlightenment. We're going through that same enlightenment again. But and it's the same battle, and it may end up the same way where we're going to have to fight for our independence and our freedom and our sovereignty. And that's what we're saying. The same exact words what they were saying. We want our sovereignty back. We want our freedom back. Them are the same exact words that they were saying.
Yeah,
Right.
but
You're exactly right.
how far is this Mgtow gonna go? Come on, guys. Let's spit out the truth here. Let's not be shy with.
Let me answer that question.
Yeah, let's hear from Heartburn. Come
Let
on,
me
man.
answer that question.
Don't
I
be
said
shy
this
now,
in
brother.
one of my latest videos. Mgtow is, what is it? How did I say it? Mgtow is an idea whose time has come.
Yeah.
As far as the strongest male will take it. That's how far.
Is it going to change society, Heartburn? Is it going to change?
Yes, I think it will. Now, I'm not being dreamy about this. I'm being very logical. I'm not just high on the idea that we're a part of some great thing that's going to become popular. I'm just saying you can look at what Mgtow is as a response to what's going on in the West as the only appropriate response for men to take. Okay?
Completely.
Now, if you get, this idea will spread. I mean, a solution is water in a desert, okay? And you're giving the right remedy to the problems. Of course, a lot of men need to figure out that there is a goddamn problem. They don't know any better. But Mgtow itself will spread to more men. It spread to me, or it's, people have to discover it first, and that's a bumpy ride for people. But the more men that come into Mgtow, the more the awareness of the way things should be, the way things can be, and men begin to remove their productivity and are a part of society and are vocal in different parts of society, it absolutely can shut down a big bureaucracy like a government or even just big ideologies that seem to be ruling over us in the West. Mgtow has that potential. Although that's not our job, I think that would be a good side benefit of a widespread Mgtow community out there.
Starve it out. I think that's so well said right there, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm interested to hear what's going on over in Japan. I mean, them guys have been at it as far as I know, they've been at it for a lot longer than we have.
Yeah, I see the analogies there, but I don't see the same kind of male.
It's not the same culture, It's not the same. I mean, when the culture's different, the society's going to be different. I don't know. It's hard to get in touch. I mean, they're not talking, are they? They're so going their own way. They've gone all the way away, and they're not talking.
They went all the way away. Yeah, my last video. I'm going so far away. I'm gonna be a girl.
He's gone all the way away. The Japanese have gone so Mgtow.
People didn't understand it. I was so shocked that nobody got that.
Away. They've gone away from the men too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, though, Shining. We talked about it last time, where that they can be the kind of the canary in the coal mine. They tend to be ahead of us, and to some extent, they may provide some insight into what we can expect. But at the same time, I think Traversable, what you mentioned there, is that it's not. We're not the outcome isn't necessarily the same. Because of certain variables that can exist, maybe culturally or just like the thread, because there is a thread in kind of the American strain or the Western strain. There is this thread of sovereignty and independence and freedom that has really driven most of the good things that have come. And I don't know if that, we know that those Asian Eastern societies tend to be much more inherently collectivist and less individualistic. And so maybe that's something that can make a difference for us.
Yeah, I think we can expect to see the same kind of demographic count and the same kind of, we can expect that 60% someday is going to be the, because it's 60% there. I can say, well, that's a solid you can look at because it's anthropology rather than a pseudoscience then. But yeah, we can expect sort of things we can see from them. But I don't think at 60, if you imagine 60% of the men in America were Mgtow, this thing, we'd have guys running around taking back our government with guns because that's the way we are.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. This is where we're at. We're listening now, aren't we? Okay. In the UK, the government has announced, or local councils, which is more or less a government, have announced that in areas, in whole estates, for example, Lady Hill in Birmingham or Liverpool, up and down the UK, there's entire estates where there's no men. They call it men deserts. We've all heard that. You've all watched my video on that. I'm sure you're all avid followers of my channel. Okay? Right, now listen.
You have a channel, Shining?
I don't know. I was on Diana Davidson's channel. I guess.
Okay, listen. The Japanese porn industry has just announced that it's going through a recession due to the shortage of men.
Wow.
There's such a shortage of men in Japan that the Japanese porn industry are short of men.
But
Check it out. Check it out. Go Google Japanese men shortage, and you'll see all this shit going on.
Now, in those boroughs in London, are those basically the high rises and the welfare?
That's the high rises, the welfare.
Is that the high rises and welfare areas that they're sticking all these women into?
Yeah, that's right. I call them the suicide flats because there was a suicide every week. I remember when I was like a teenager, there was a suicide every week in one of those flats. I guess all the men are dead now and they've all gone.
The men have just killed themselves off. I
mean, I think that's literally what's happened.
The man desert. I mean, it's fantastic. It's exactly what needs to happen. The man desert needs to spread and spread and spread.
And believe it or not, this is going to sound shit because we're all Mgtow. We all stay away from women because we're so hard, we're so cool. We don't need women. But anyway, my friend who works for a public sector, he says male what's the word now? Male harassment by women sexually harassing men have shot up 2,000 times.
Of course it has. Of course it has.
Well, women sexually molesting men in the public services has shot up 2,000%.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, did you see that thing I put in Gmail just about an hour ago? These three women attacked this guy and they stole his sperm.
I know. I couldn't believe it. And then it's been reported in a few news channels. So
yeah, that's what they want. They know what they want.
They did that?
Yeah, they did. Women know what they want now. You're not a male. You're just a sperm dispensary for them.
Yes, three women kidnapped this man, made him jack off, and emptied his balls into a couple of tubes, and then they kicked him out of the car.
Yeah, you know,
wow.
If they go back and imagine that situation. Now they go back and they say, "I've carried his baby." They did this for a reason. Was he the alpha?
I don't know, but was it in Africa or somewhere? So
no, that was right here in. Let me go to G+.
I think that was because they had like very African names.
Yeah, I thought that was right here in the U.S.
Port Elizabeth, Eastern Cape.
Yeah, let me see.
That's a sign of the times, man. That's a sign of the times.
Yeah, when women, sperm jacking is so prevalent now. That's all they're really doing is they're sperm jacking a guy now, and then once they got a sperm, he's history. He's out of the picture, and they go to.
Sorry, I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
Yeah, they could take it to Health and Human Services, the baby, and get what they want because that's the new daddy.
Yeah, he's owned. As soon as someone possesses your sperm, they own you. That's your ticket to slavery.
Yep. Okay, well, here's the article. The article's only short. In Port Elizabeth, Eastern Cape, a man was abducted and raped. 3 female suspects stopped next to a 33-year-old man and asked for directions. When he approached the car, one of them pulled a gun, and he was forced into the car, and then he was forced to drink something, and the 3 took turns in. It says here, rape. They use the word raping him in an open area next to the side of the road. The strangest and most unusual thing of all this, they left with his semen in a cooler box.
Doesn't give any details, like if he was like a really alpha or something like that.
It was
Yeah.
Mooch V, the poor guy.
Well, yeah, that poor guy is getting a sperm jack now.
Got sperm jack. You see, that PUA failed
I
him in
wonder
the end.
what was going on there. I mean, they all wanted. I guess that's interesting. It really is.
I
It's a
don't
weird
know.
story.
Yeah. Well, probably they probably wanted babies. They probably didn't qualify for what's that word now? When you go into the sperm bank and you apply to get fertilized and
A
stuff.
donor, sperm
They,
donor.
they probably didn't qualify for it, so they thought, well, we'll just steal some man and fuck going out to bars or something. They thought,
Yeah.
we want it, we can take it. We're three strong, independent women.
Fuck.
Yeah, that is something.
It's
But
the end of times, man. The end
I,
of
I'm
times here.
surprised. I'm surprised the government there wasn't some program to help women out do that. It will happen soon,
yeah,
won't it?
yeah, they do have programs right now to help women. They show women how to do exactly to do that, to get men into the collective. Go out, go to the bar, get pregnant, take down his social security number or his driver, take it, go down to Health and Human Service, and you got a slave. There's no difference between those three girls and the sperm jacker, the modern sperm jacker now that in the Western world.
Well,
Sure.
well, well. Hopefully, we'll get a few more details about this, and I don't know. It's another sign that men have got shit all right. And probably if he goes to the police will probably just laugh at him
Yeah.
because
They'll go,
Lucky you.
Lucky you, slave. Yeah.
yeah, unbelievable.
Did you guys, I don't know, happen across Coltane's recent video at all?
No, I don't know who Coltane is.
Oh, really?
No, I haven't watched Coltane. No.
He just put out a video yesterday. It's pretty sweet. It's really a good one. It's he really lays out a lot of data for the case that females the difference between the female the sex drive, that females are all, basically 90% of males is what females are going for.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry, the top 10%.
Right, because the top 10% are the males that have, the wealth. The top 10% are the males that, like we explained before, most of these guys are never going to be that top 10%. But
Right.
the top 10% are the guys that they can actually go after in this real live hypergamy situation where the lawyers can drag $100,000 or $200,000 in court costs. The courts drag money out of that. The female gets something on the end of it. Yeah, of course they're going to go after the top 10%.
Right.
There's going to be a competition too. I've heard of basketball players that had harems of girls following them out, trying to get them to lay some sperm in them.
It's and so it's like he introduced this model of which kind of, I think, Shiny, you'd kind of alluded to the same kind of a thing earlier or something. Someone did, but where you have biology, and then you have the culture, and then the next thing you have is ideology, like built on top of it. And he drew the analogy to technology, computers, whatever, where like the hard drive is like our biology, and the operating system is the culture, and then the software would be the ideology. So he's making a really succinct case, I think a sound case, where it's like, arguing against feminism is trivial. It's never going to really be really effective because it's the ideology is just the icing on the cake.
Right.
But the culture underneath it of gynocentrism is much more fundamental, and the only reason feminism can only exist on top of that. And but then even below that, basically our biology, it's like what can we really do given the biology that we have? We have male biology being what it is, female biology being what it is. What's the best solution, or what's the best way to arrange things, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I
Is
don't
there an
know.
arrangement that would work and be, other than what we have?
Well, you got to look at the two sections to that. What two questions you're asking? Constitutionally, what's appropriate that works with our Constitution, and
Yeah.
appropriately what men want, and what women want too. And that's where I go back to the total. If you look at the total general relief system and just take all that shame, take all that bullshit out of there, every woman's just a sperm bucket, and there's no more marriage, there's no more bullshit, there's no more government intersection. She just goes down, signs up at her local HHS, and she raises the children. And that's a perfect solution. Because then you got men out there that are going to do their thing, and other men are going to go, hey, fuck it, I'm just going to go be Tesla, and I'm not going to, and if I do get one pregnant, fuck it, it's not going to ruin my life.
Okay.
Look at how many businesses get ruined every year. Do you ever go over the business, how many businesses are ruined by divorce? They have those stats. It's literally hundreds of thousands that business that will never take and will never employ another person in their life. And then they start complaining about we got 17% unemployment when you got 50% divorce a year and 10% in each state, and then each of those 10% men, if Joe doesn't, like, just use my name, if Joe doesn't employ those four guys, then those four guys are fucking out of a job because some woman wasn't happy, and it means so much more to the economy.
Sure,
we
yeah.
just had great, we just had a couple great examples of a couple billionaires that corporations are being cannibalized right now, and everybody's going, oh, well, the poor guy, or the girl's getting go girl. Well, she's cannibalizing the business, but that rolls down to employment for not just one male. And that one
Sure,
male
but
at that point, it has to do with 6,000 males now.
the lawyers and judges are getting paid, so
Yeah,
she's
the lawyers are
supporting their
judges again.
employment.
Yeah, they're supporting their employment, their system, but 6,000 guys are about to lose their job.
Hey guys, look at the chat. Look, everyone's admin. Everyone's admin on the chat.
Yeah, everybody's got a fucking wrench. That means they kicked every fucking person out there.
They kicked everybody out.
Yeah, you guys, I'm going to take those wrenches if you guys can't use those responsibly.
Where's my Mgtow? Did he get kicked off? Hey, look at the chat. Everyone's admin.
And I thought that was funny the other day when I seen it. Every person that came in and said something slightly like fucked up, they were like, "You're out of here."
Well, that's good. Use your power, guys. If you don't use it, you lose it. That's what happens.
We got some other viewers, guys.
Dictator motherfuckers.
Yeah, it's nice to see.
Yeah, Mgtow's a tough place, isn't it? Everybody's got a hammer. Everybody's got a hammer.
Actually, we need more hammers.
Yeah, we need more hammers. And, conform or be cast out. And they mean it in there.
Throwdown's going to ban himself.
I put myself on a 5-minute timeout now, guys.
Yeah. Well, I need to chip, guys. I need to get up in the morning. But it was nice catching up with you guys.
Yeah, it's 12 o'clock there for you.
MJ was on earlier. I don't know if you guys want MJ in.
I didn't see MJ. Was he going by a different avatar or?
No. He's got his channel's called Red Pill Borders now.
Oh, okay, that's what. Yeah. I didn't know that was MJ. Yeah, we'd like to bring in MJ sometime and just talk to him.
All right. Well, I'm gonna chip, guys. I wish you guys a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah.
Yes, of it, guys. That was silly, but anyway, it was nice chatting to you guys again. Hopefully we'll do it again real soon now.
I'll catch you at the club, huh, Shining?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Always.
Don't wander into one of those man deserts that will just fucking steal your sperm.
No, I mean, if this carries on, it's something really we've got to be scared of. But yeah, hopefully we'll get more details coming out of that. But anyway, guys, peace.
Take care, Shining.
Peace.
Cheers, buddy.
Yeah. How long have we been doing this? About 2.5 hours? Yeah, it's probably time to, for palatability's sake, to kind of, and you know, Heartburn's got his stew. I'm sure he wants to eat, and I got mine out there too. Time to sit back, relax for the rest of the night, open that beer, and watch a football game, or do whatever your favorite thing on Sunday night is. Your man thing.
Xbox.
Xbox. I don't have an
Yeah.
Xbox yet.
You got to. You haven't lived Traversable. It's
I know. I've been
wonderful.
playing Google games, and that sucks.
Oh yeah.
What games, Vern?
I'm in Fallout right now, but GTA was fucking amazing. Absolutely amazing. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I wanted to get the GTA, and the Fallout looked really interesting too, and there's so
Yeah.
much more you can do. I just have to do that one of these days. Just I find it so hard to justify anything in life. If I have to buy a new computer or $400 for an Xbox, I'll be like, I don't know if I can justify that. I still got that old-fashioned male mentality where I still can't bring myself to just spend $400 on it.
Yeah, it's a good $400 because it's really complimentary to your television. There's a lot of other shit besides playing games you can do with it. It's fabulous. I would never be without one.
Yeah, you could do a podcast from some of them things, and you can
Yeah.
actually go on the internet and hook a Wi-Fi keyboard into it and do that stuff now with them. Their computers, what they are.
Yeah, I got Amazon Prime, so I watch all their television shows and all their videos on my TV. Sopranos, all the free movie, everything. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I got
Xbox
the
is great. $400. It's $400 is nothing. This thing is worth way more. I've already got my $400
I
worth for
don't
the
know
last
if I
couple of months.
got the Firebox, and I don't know if I can play games on that. And I got the Asus box out there too, which I don't know if I can play games on. So I got those two too.
Wait till you get the virtual reality on there, Vern.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's coming.
Yeah, then I could just watch porn all day and never die. You're gonna see guys never leaving their house. I'm just sitting here watching my virtual reality all day.
You think there's a man desert now? You just wait.
Yeah, wait till that happens. They're gonna put a little sperm collection unit inside the virtual reality headset, so they can come collect it every week.
That's your payment. That's how you pay.
Yeah, that's how they'll let you know you got a kid. It was, when you watch that, Two Big Girls video. Oh my God. Okay, guys, let's wrap this up. Have we learned anything today? Anybody want to do a Kyle at the end of, what I've learned today is?
That's a good idea. What did we learn today? We learned, picking up chicks or chasing females. There's a very well established institution for that. It's called PUA. On the other hand, you have a very well established institution for the alternative, and that is Mgtow. And they can coexist. They don't necessarily need to become each other, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You've said it all. I second that. That's what I learned today too.
Yeah, there are inherent risks. Mgtow's a little more advanced. There's a little more you got to learn about it. If you stick around long enough, you'll get the ideas. You'll get the theories that we talk about and why we talk about them like that we do. And let the program work. Give the program a chance, and then one day you'll wake up in the middle of that night and go, "Oh shit, that's what he was saying."
Yeah. I think the AA analogy is really good. I think there's a lot. I mean, it's that kind of a thing where it may not sink in right now, but over time you realize, what was I doing with all that alcohol? What was I doing chasing women?
Yeah.
What was going on there?
Yeah, fake it till you make it sometimes, and you'll get it. And the monk's code is purposeful, and we do it for a reason, and because we love each one of these guys, and we want to protect them from that cruel future that's sitting in front of them, from the gynocentric. The rabbit hole goes real, real, real deep, guys. Uh, if you're one of those guys that can learn without having to see it, God bless you. Uh, but if you're one of those guys that have to live it, we will still be there for you to support you through your pain.
You're here.
And
Just try to avoid it. Try not to go
try,
through it.
try to avoid that shit with everything in your soul. Sooner or later, we'll come up with some better answers about how we can procreate, how we can reproduce boy children, and have a family and just be a single male and have the same rights and responsibilities as a woman. But now we're stuck with the system that we have, so be careful.
Yeah, now is not that time.
Now is not the time to be careless with you, especially in this time, is not to be careless with your sperm.
And go forth and play Xbox, I think.
Go forth, play Xbox,
Amen.
and let me know about, we got to get somebody that puts up a video with the Oculus Rift and see what we actually can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, yeah. Some Oculus porn. Can we get that?
Oculus
Up here
porn,
on
and male birth control, that's the cure to this. We got to work on male birth control. We got to start screaming for male birth control. Besides getting your testicles mutilated, we need.
Yeah.
We need
to some extent, Traversable. I don't know what you think about this, but porn it almost. I think maybe we think about birth control in a limited way. We think of it as in the female way. It's like birth control has to be like the pill, but what if like porn is the pill for men?
Yeah,
it already
can't do that
exists.
birth control. Unless you can find that girl that has a total hysterectomy, but still you're gonna have to listen to her mouth.
Take your
All
pick.
right, that's enough for me, guys. I'm going to check out now.
Okay, you guys take care, and all you guys, and thanks for being around today. Thanks for enjoying this Sunday with us. Go get something to eat, watch a football game, watch your favorite sport, or watch your favorite movie, play some video games, and we're out. Thanks.